3-hour race. And it's great to have your company for that. Beautiful weather at the virtual Nürburgring. It's John Hindhaugh on duty. If you're listening to us here and I've just popped out the room and want to hear the end of the Spa WEC race, retune to RS1. But we're in sound, vision, and the enhanced timing that we have, courtesy of our colleagues at the Nürburgring. Good to have your company here on RS3. Qualifying for the Porsche 911 Cup has resulted in Sim RC on top of the times from Asher Racing and then WS Racing by Nürburgring from Project GT. Less than 4 seconds. In fact, let's call it 4 seconds for the top 5 with Sim Racing Academy Red in 5th position. For the best of the BMWs in that class, for the GT4 class, which is Porsche and BMWs. It is Porsche's to the fore there, with Matti Sipilä putting the time in for Core Sim Racing. In the number 303, Manuel Weibel from Team RSO, then Huizingveld 301, then Zorg Rennsport, the best of BMWs, Marcel Fassbender, the Sim RC.de Carbon from Patrick Henn and Tobias Berger. As far as the TCR category, which is all Audis, of course, Jürgen Frank for Sim RC TCR from Full Send Racing in the 485. That was Lars Ball. Marius Gollenbeck for Core Sim Racing TCR. Yannick Danish for Zorg Rennsport Esports. Huizingveld 414, Marcel T. And then Marian Hansel from Leipert. Team Nürburgring, WS Racing, and Derner Motorsport. They were separated by not very much at all either. We've got the GT3 cars heading out at the moment and in perfect weather conditions, as we mentioned here at the virtual Nürburgring, with their qualifying session with 13 minutes to go, just after 6:30 in Central Europe for the Nürburgring event. This is the 7th round of the season, and we'll continue our coverage for the rest of this year at RSL_studio. If you want to get in touch with me, and I'll give you some times as they start to come through. It will take you just a wee while for the GT3s to get their first times in. They tend to double back around the Grand Prix circuit and then go onto a flying lap. Already going out onto the hats and back, the early runners. And it's Sindre Setsas, who's been an absolute star for the Manfilter team, HTP Winwood, number 48, Mercedes-Benz. Keep an eye on them. They've got already a win under their belts in both the real and the virtual NLS this weekend. And Beitske Vesser for BS competition. Now that's interesting. She was at the ELMS at Spa last weekend. First time that I've had the pleasure of commentating on her in the virtual world as well. The BMW, of course, in GT3, still the venerable Z4, which still to my eyes looks very, very current indeed. And in GT3 spec looks very good. But it's Sindre Setsas in the number 48 Manfilter Team HTP AMG GT3 who's setting the purple sectors at the moment. And meanwhile, Bijtskavessa down into the foxhole. Great section of track. Try to stay off the curb. Bottom out right at the very bottom of that before you head up the hill. Fifth gear, down to fourth. Then one more, third, and then down to second for the last piece of the right-hander at the top of the forest section. Lovely bit of the track, this. Through the two lefts. Let the uphill slow you down just a little bit before the third of those lefts. Then crest the brow. Watch out for the back end stepping away here before you drop down to the hairpin. Short shifting. Now down through the Kalmhard section, and it's hit. It's miss hit, isn't it, for these three? Into the hairpin, all the way down the gearbox to second again. Now diving down towards the bridge at Adana. Already up the other side of the bridge for Bijtskavessa, who's in that BS competition 189. So now climbing the hill, these left-handers that seem to go on. It's only the last one, the one that Bijtska's coming up to now. There's a little bit of a lift there, tightens on you slightly, and then these very fast right-handed sweepers. Flat through the first of those left. Was there down in gear there? No, there wasn't. Now stay off the curbs here. Starting to get towards the bottom of the hill that leads up to the Carracciola carousel. Really can't hit any of these curbs. Down through the gearbox, took the front end in for the end of the advertising hoarding at the top of the hill as soon as you can see it. That's where you want to be entering the Carracciola carousel. Tree slightly to the right of that is also a good one as well. Now that lovely run through the middle part of the circuit, where when you know the track, it's very, very good indeed. Sindre Setsas for Manfilter, setting purple times at the moment. Barely enough time to get a lap in around here. Got to get out there. Setsas already through the middle part of the track and heading down towards the run for home, on towards, this is all flat out. Not a hint of a lift, by the way. Through Flansgarden, and now into the last third of the track. Very good time by Setsas, and at the moment he's leading ahead of Augustin Canapino for Marla Racing Team, another of the winners this season. Sindre Setsas for the Bright Yellow Manfilters HTP Windward car, based in Altendienst in Germany, the real team, and taking a very close interest in what's going on in the virtual world. Bryson Russell Ward, now the custodians of the HTP name in Europe, as well as the Windward Racing Team in the US, and bringing those two together across the Atlantic. Here comes then Sindre Setsas. Canapino setting good times, but not as good as that Manfilter AMG across the line now, and sets the best time. 27 degrees in the air, 40 degrees on the track. That's going to make things difficult in this 3-hour race. And I just wonder what that means. We've seen some of the teams split the race due to the tyre temps and the wear. 7:57.4 for 7:59.2 rather, but immediately Niels Koch goes to the head of the field with Team BMW Bank. 7:57.452. In third, Fabio Gross for Schnitzelarm Racing, another yellow Mercedes, or AMG should I say. Beitske for BS, a couple of seconds further back in fourth. Then Phoenix, Christian Anders France and Jens Halteth for AFP Car Collection. The next two up at RSL_studio. And if you're listening in at the moment on RS2, it's good to have your company. Don't forget we've got sound and vision together. So who else is looking good? Let me scroll down the timing screen. Marcus Eichhorn for Leipert Esports got a couple of 3 purple sectors in a lap that has 12 different sectors, of course, here at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Adam Christodoulou out there as well. What's his times looking like at the moment? He's just done a quick lap around the pit, around the Grand Prix track, and cut straight back in again. Christodoulou for Team Heusingfeld 101 in the GT3. Fabian Schiller is out for Vodafone Team Get Speed as well. He's coming to the end of his lap. Christodoulou has indeed started a lap as well. Christodoulou then out, and just on the far side of the circuit as it stands at the moment, putting a decent time in. 3-hour race, of course. This will give us a good idea of who's doing what in terms of who has the speed. Quite few cars out at the moment, so that's the good news. Christodoulou then heading over the top of yet another blind brow and into the Kleiner Carousel as he's at the end of the lap through Schwalbenschwanz, is the proper name of that, onto the Gallows Hill corner. Nailed that one, absolutely nails that as he cuts it back to the second apex and heads on the Dottinger Hohe. Picked him up somewhere around about Brunchen, heading down through Tiergarten towards the end of the lap. Reading a chapter of his book on his e-reader at the moment. Interesting to see, stayed up to the left-hand side there under the Bilstein Bridge. Didn't drift across to the right, but that's an easy flat left kink. Brakes insanely late up the hill, all the way past the second apex, almost clipping the edge of the armcore on the left-hand side. At the end of the lap now, drags the car to the left-hand side as he's got traffic coming out onto the start-finish line, and goes through into 4th position for Heusingfeld 101. So it's BMW Bank, Niels Koch, Sindre Setzes for Manfilter, Marler Racing Team, Augustin Canapino, the Argentinian driver in the 186 in third. Christodoulou at the moment on the outside of row 2 from Fabio Gross for Schnitzelarm Racing, then BS Competitions Beitske. Andreas Franks for Phoenix. Jens Althaus makes up the top 8. Just hearing some very sad news from the USA, where the voice of the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach, Bruce Flanders, has died. Worked with Bruce a few times. Very distinctive commentator and broadcaster. Our condolences go to his friends and family particularly friends. He has many in US paddocks. News just coming to us a few moments ago. Right, let's see who else is still to put a lap in GT3. If you're just joining us, Claudius Feeds has Paul in the Porsche 911 Cup class with the 276 SimRC Cup 2 car in the GT4 category, split between Porsche 718 Caymans and BMW GT4s. It is Porsches to the fore. Matti Sipilä in the 303 course sim racing ahead of another 3 Porsches before the first BMW for Marcel Fassbender and SimRC.de Carbon, the 376 car. Jürgen Frank for Sim RC TCR from Full Send. Lars Bohr, Maurice Gollenbeck, Janis Danch, top 4 in the TCR category. Nicholas Schlein in the Adrenaline Motorsport car, then finishing his lap off. He, at the moment, is the last of the 12. The Ring Weisert Sim Racing number 188 still out there for Martin Ehren as well. Well, here's Niklas heading down the Dottinger Höhe. Just behind him there, I think that is Martin Ehrlen. Yes, it is, in the Ring Weisert Sim Racing car. So these are the last 2 cars to qualify. At RSL_studio. Coming through, going to be about an 8:05. It is an 8:05 then for Nicholas Maxine. The last couple of cars just coming through. There's Christian Andreas Franz going through in the yellow Audi. Coming through now, Cedric Freiberghaus for the Phoenix Racing Esports Orange team, currently 10th position in class, but he's not as quick as a couple of the Porsche Cup cars. He'll want to be quicker than those, needs to improve his time a wee bit. Comes to the line now, and well, I have no improvement for him on that one, certainly not on his position. Beitske Visser has just improved her time, if not her position. She's still in 6th place for BS. Checkered flag is out, so there is going to be a chance for a second lap for some of these teams. Niels Koch then for BMW Bank is the pole sitter. Should get the opportunity to finish this lap. Excuse me, I think I said checkered flag. Still 7 minutes remaining. My apologies. Spurious message on my screen. Real pressure in these qualifying sessions. You've heard us talk to the winners in the past here on Radio Show Limited for these VCO events, and this is round 7 of the Digital Nürburgring Langstrecken Series, powered by VCO, a virtual competition organisation. Good smattering of real-world drivers in the entry lists as well. In the early part of the season, good to see Adam Christodoulou back with us again, as well as Augustin Canapino has done quite a bit of real-world racing. Bicycle obviously. So Niels Koch then coming down fast Dortigerhout. Public road to, actually to both sides, but mainly to the driver's left here, which can be somewhat off-putting if you're just tootling down towards sign-on and registration, which is at the garage, the petrol station, about halfway down on the Dortigerhout, and you forget there's things on the track, particularly if you're driving back on the right-hand side of the road, of course, in Germany, and something goes past you at 300 plus Ks, which seems to be just coming over your right shoulder, and you think he's overtaking you effectively on the hard shoulder of the road to your right. It wakes you up, let me put it that way. And that's a new fastest lap for Niels. Got down to a 7:56. 7:56.8. Marvellous stuff. Wonderful stuff. There's the HTP car going through for Sindre Setsas. 7:59, his best. 8:01 last time around. Martin Erlen in the 1:88. Ringverzeit. Sim racing by Nürburgring Esports. Very striking green colour scheme on that car. 8:13.4. See who's improved. Well, we mentioned Beitske. She improved to an 8:04, 8:05 for Nicholas Mal at Maxine for Adrenaline in 6th. In 7th, Nicholas Machines. 8th, Christian Anders. No, he didn't improve. Jens Althaus for FP improved, 8:07.3. But a 2.5 second gap at the moment for Niels Koch for Team BMW Bank. He's in the pit lane, having come round the short loop. That's impressive. Dark grey and BMW M Sport colours of the classic Z4. Again, just a reminder, Sim RC Cup on pole with a very creditable 8:07.7 for the Porsche Cup class in the 276 for Claudius Veed. GT4's now a split class between the Porsche GT4s and the BMWs. That's the Cayman, of course, and the BMWs. Fastest time there, an 8:35.8 for Core Sim Racing and Marty Siepeler. Best of the BMWs, Marcel Fassbender with an 8:40. And just to round off the TCRs, 8:52.1, the best time there by Jürgen Frank for Sim RC TCR in the 1:76. Confirmation then of the grid. Team BMW Bank from the AMG of Manfilter Team HTP looking for another victory. Sindre Setsas qualifying there. Augustin Canapino for Marla Racing Team next up. And as we head through Team Heusingfeld, Schnitzelam on row 2. Then BS Competition Adrenaline on 3. Phoenix and AFP on row 4. And behind them, the Christian Anders France, the Phoenix car. Then AFP, Jens Alfhaus and Cedric Tim Freiburghaus, the Phoenix. And then the Ring Faisiet Sim Racing by Nürburgring Esports. Audi with Martin Erlen. A little bit off the pace, but as we know only too well how these things can go. And it will all come down to the strategy. Many different strategies seen here in the past. Cup 2, Sim RC confirming there ahead of Asher Racing, Martin Asher, once again in the 227. Then WS on row number 2. They have alongside them the Project GT Einstein Sim Racing Academy, Violent Racing and H2. H2 then Rivelton and Noville Racing Core with Ring Racing. Porsches, well actually GT4, Core again, Matty Sippeler from Team RSO, Heusingfeld 301, Lennart Hartenberg, then Zorg Rennsport with Christian Berg. And behind them on row number 3, it's the BMWs, Marcel Fassbender, Robin Stroll for Sim RC and Adrenaline E-Motorsport. Then T3, AMC Birkenfeld EV Stabel Release. They are in the same class, although I know they're two different cars and everybody has been used in the past to just been having a single Porsche class, but the new GT4s are now in the same class, the new BMW M4 GT4s. It's Sim RC and Jürgen Frank again from Lars Bull and Full Send Racing, 476 from 485. Marius Gollenbeck from Yannick Danish in the TCRs. That's your front tour for Sim RC, Full Send Core. The usual suspects at the front there. And then Zorg Rennsport, Team Heusingfeld, Leipertz, Esport Yellow, Marian Hensel there. Team Nürburgring, Renny Kershoff. WS Racing by Nürburgring, Matthias Sauer as well in 8th position. And then Dominik Spickler in the Dörner Motorsport Club EV Audi. All Audis in the TCR category. But the news this week that in the real world, due to COVID, Mazda have shelved their Mazda 3 TCR effort, which is a great shame because that was looking very good indeed from the early pictures that I'd seen of the car as it was being developed. So no need for the cars to do the warm-up lap here. They all get gridded up on the run down past. In fact, where you come on in the tourist far and the tourist laps, just on the right-hand side, the little red cabin where you get your ring cart swiped and buy yourself how many laps you think you want. And then head off into the wild blue yonder. It's always a bit scary first time you go back there after a wee while. It's John Hindhaugh for RSL and VCO with the 7th round of the Digital Nürburgring Langstrecken Series. It's the NEMIX 3-hour on the Nürburgring Nordschleife. And it's Nils Kosch and Sindre Setzes for Team BMW Bank and Manfilter who will lead them off. What is the tactics going to be? What are the tactics going to be in this race? 20 seconds before we roll the Porsche safety car that is sitting at the front of the field. Got a couple of cars missing, including Augustin Canapino. He's not there on row 2, and I don't think Fabio Grosser was there either for Schnitzelam. Couldn't see the bright yellow. Just dropped in there now. Okay, that's good. Both of those cars having dropped in, and that will allow the Porsche safety car to roll down. Are you ready? I've been missing this. It seems ages since we've done a DNLS. Just after 7 o'clock in the evening, CEST, Central European Summertime. And it will be the big GT3s at the front. A full grid of 41 cars. Heading down towards Tiergarten, the end of the lap. If you're not sure who your favourites are, well, we'll try and point out as many as we can through the 3-hour race. Pit stops, of course. Tactics, absolutely. Probably in this heat, I would think no more than 7 laps for the GT3s. Possibly only 6. It may well be tyre determined rather than fuel determined here. I don't see Canapino. I don't see Canapino in the Marla Racing 186 car. No, he's in the pits, that's why he's showing in the pits. Nicholas Maxshine from Adrenaline as well for the moment, showing in the pits as well, as we are green and running. Watch those cars join in from later. BMW Bank. There's Canapino in the white fronted Audi sitting in the pits. He missed getting onto the grid. The Schnitzelheim car that I thought was missing, that is there. That at the moment, 4th in line. The second of the two highlight the yellow Mercedes-Benz is they're through the Haug hook for the first time. And BMW Bank in the hands of Niels Koch leads out from Sintra Sensors. Adam Christian Dulu. Good start for Team Heusingveld. Then Schnitzelheim, BS Competition, Beitskevisse, excuse me, from Christian Franz, then Phoenix, and then his teammate Cedric Velberghaus in there as well. Here comes the Get Speed car down the inside, can't miss that one, with Fabian Schiller in the bright red Vodafone kind of spin for the number 5. That's Freiburg House. The light blue Phoenix goes around at the first time of asking into the hairpin short Grand Prix circuit, remember. Now, the Porsche Cup class, all Porsches, all the 911 GT 3Rs, which are the Porsche Cup cars. Taku Watanabe starting for Novel Racing ahead of the Claudius Veed Sim RC Cup. Now, that's a change then. No, he's in the pit lane now. Shown in the pit lane from Claudius Veed, who is in the pole position. On the left-hand side of the picture is the bright yellow of Martin Asher, who gets the 276 into the lead. 276 is Veed, excuse me. Asher's in the 227, both with the Asher Racing logos on them. Round the outside from the pole man, gets it done, spin in the middle of the pack, but mercifully is not hit. The bright green Project GT1 DE, Lucas Lippert, and presumably then all those cars that started in the pit lane have been allowed to go now. Canapino, Maxshine and Watanabe have indeed have been released, as the pole man Veed from Asher, from Ole Schumann for WS Racing, and then Tobias Roof 2 for Violent Racing. Then Nicholas Last. Here comes the GT4 class, BMWs and Porsches to the front of that field. Dominic Spicker for Dürner Motorsport Club is out of position. He must be in the pits as well. So it's Matti Siepeler. So a lot of cars starting from the pit lane. Siepeler from pole in the 303 goes to the racing line, and then behind him it's 4 wide with a BMW trying to squeeze in among the Porsches, but not quite so handy on the brakes as the Cayman 718s ahead. And that's the Sim. That was the Sim RC Carbon. That was Marcel Fassbender, again in the Asher Racing colours, the yellow with the AR on the side of the door. Drops into 5th place. Drops into 5th place, yeah. Usual rough and tumble at the start of these races. BMW M4's relatively new. Had them for a couple of rounds now. Part of the last major update from iRacing, and another big one to come next month, including, we hear, the closed-top LMP2 car. Right, here's the TCRs. Got ahead of myself a little bit earlier on. This is always great fun. Coming to the line now. Already 5 minutes since the leaders crossed the line and went away. So Felix Luding from Stint Ledger. Sim TCR, up goes Marius Gullenbeck in the car, Sim Racing TCR number 403. Nice move into second, that orange and white car, red, white and black if you wish. Wide on the outside, the 404 of Marcel T, Team Huizingveld. He's lost a couple of places there. Good start again though by all the pole sitters. Have really started well, haven't they? At RSL_studio if you want to get in touch. Hello to Team Valkenhorst who are listening in and watching as well. Sound.video-show.co.uk. Let's pick up the GT Battle Team Schnitzelau right up the tailpipes of Adam Christodoulou, who's in the Huizingveld black, silver and red car as they round the left-hander that is on the far side of the circuit before they drop into the carousel. Marvellous, absolutely marvellous stuff. Out of the carousel then, heading up towards her act. And then the outstanding section through Wipperman, Eichbach and down to Brunchen. Good spot to watch at Brunchen. They'll come to that in a wee moment. Schnitzelau, that very bright yellow car sitting in behind the darkest similar machine. As they head down now towards, over the brow rather, and now down towards the left-hander before Brunchen. Take the block paving on the outside, climbing up out of Brunchen. Love it a bit. Fast, committed, and here comes Fabio Grossa for Schnitzelau Racing. Behind them, not too far behind them either, is Beitske Visser, but a couple of seconds back. She's got Christian Andreas Frank for Phoenix Racing right on her rear wing. Flat out through Flansgarden, down towards the Schwalbenschwanz. Another bridge to cross before they get to that area of the track. Oh, no. Was there a little mistake there? Oh no, that's first and second, excuse me. Niels Koch goes through the Kleiner carousel and onto the Gallows Hill. That triple pressure right-hander that leads onto the Dottinger Hohe. Fabio Grossa still right there. Adam Christodoulou. Amazingly, Adam Christodoulou with the number 2 behind it means he was the second person to register that name on iRacing. You wouldn't have thought there'd be another one that was into East Racing. Massive, massive draft down the long Dottinger Hohe, and Grossa pulls out to the right-hand side in the Schnitzelau Racing, the car sponsored by the Schnitzel restaurant chain. I've left it as long as I could. We're 8 minutes in and it's the first time I've mentioned the Schnitzel restaurant chain. Towards the end of the lap, Niels Koch's gone through. Sindre Settas in second, a couple of seconds back, then 3.4 seconds back to that battle we were watching. Fabio Gross and Adam Christodoulou now in fourth. Beitske Visser is another 2.5 seconds further back and is pulled out to just over a second on Christian Andreas Franz. In the Cup class, the gorgeous sonorous sounds in the forest of the flat 6 Porsche engine being tortured by Claudius Veed and Martin Ascher, who are first and second, both with the Ascher Racing logos on the cars. The AR coming through to the end of their first racing lap as well. Magnificent. Wherever you are in the world, sound vision, enhanced timing, we have it here for you on the RS3 channel for you this weekend. Plenty of hard racing that we've seen in the last 6 rounds, and nothing to suggest there will be anything different here. Porsche class. This is the GT4. Porsche's at the front of the class, at least, with the new BMWs not quite up to speed now. Marty Sippeler for Core Racing, then Team RSO 397, then the Heusgenfeld 301. And it's second and third that are together at the moment. The striking black and silver Heusgenfeld livery. Manufacturers of quality sim rigs and equipment. It says here, that's what they told me. You all know that anyway. Backed teams for a very long time. Then at Hartenberg, just drifting off the back of Manuel Weibel for a moment in the light blue and white RSO car. Not the easiest cars to drive, these little GT4 Cayman 718s. But very, very satisfying when you get it right, is what the drivers say. The BMW M4 GT4 is just a little bit off the pace since they've been introduced. There'll be updates, there'll be balance of performance, and there will be people getting their heads around the setups as well, of course. Best of the BMWs. Sitting behind 4 Porsches. That's Marcel Fassbender, who was the fastest qualifier as well. Drafting effect taking a little bit of an advantage then for the Heusgenfeld car, who pulls out to the right-hand side, the 301. Leonard goes round the outside even before we get to the braking area going up the hill. And there's 4 cars very much together, and right on the back of that is Marcel Fassbender in the Sim RC car. That is the first of the BMWs, and this is good. This is very good indeed for the BMWs. We've not seen them this competitive. It's tend to be almost 2 races. Now, I did see there was a few people that started from the pits. Ole Schumann, WS Racing by Nürburgring, and Bendix Warmeyer for AMC Birkenfeld. They are both listed in the pit, so they've had very early problems. They did start the race, did about a quarter to a half of a lap, but they are listed back in the pits. That suggests to me they've quit back to the pits. That'll get them a tow-back penalty plus any damage repairs that they need. Actually, let me just have a look at those times and see. Yeah. See if I can get some news on that for you. Back at the sharp end of the field, Fabio Grossa hasn't been able to shake Adam Christodoulou. You want action? Directly goes back to TCR. Always action in TCR. Looks like Felix Luding's dropped back to second. Yes, he has. That's Steen in front of him. Steen Ledger. And Luding crossed the line quickest in the bright yellow car, quickest and first, as he dives down the inside into that tricky downhill right-handed braking area into the loop. Second place for Full Send Racing. Marius Golombek's there for Core as well. In time back to 3rd and 4th in GT3 top class. Adam Christodoulou will know the Snitzel logo very well, because he's been staring at it for 10 miles or so already. Probably a little more than that. Two similar AMG GT3s then battling for third position. Here's how they stand in the opening running. Team BMW back from pole position. Nils Koch has about 3.5 seconds on Sindre Setsas for Manfilter TP. That's another AMG GT3. Then this battle that we've been talking about, Fabio Gross and Adam Christodoulou in another couple of AMG GT3s. They've got about 2.5 seconds on Beitske Visser, who's got 5 seconds on Fabian Schiller for Vodafone, who's made his way through to 6th position ahead of Phoenix Racing's Christian Andreas Franz. Dennis Jens Althaus for EFP. Marla Agustin Canapino started from the pit lane after the GT3s went by, I reckon, and he's made his way up to 9th. But he's 30 seconds already behind the leaders. Remember, for the GT3s, if you pit, you have to change tyres. So, with the temperatures up as well, 42.2 on the track, 27 in the air. Beautiful time to go racing. And just wonder whether, once again, this is a race that will be broken up into bite-sized pieces, determined by the tyre performance rather than by the fuel load. Have been 1 or 2 changes in the fuel loads over the last few races, but then again, the heat is what has been causing issues at the front of the field in terms of tyre life. Christodoulou's got a good run here, but wasn't able to make the pass before the twisty Tiergarten end of the Dottigehoer across the line. Completing lap number 2 and heading on to lap 3. Beitske Visser for BS competition in the white and blue BMW. Not able to close in, even though these two are fighting. Schiller up to 6th position in the Vodafone car, with Phoenix and Christian Andres Franz now 0.3 of a second behind. So that's a decent battle as well. For the moment, it's gone the way of Fabian Schiller, who's on fire at the moment. Just 20 seconds off the leader. Still the best battle on the circuit for 3rd overall and in GT3. Claudius Veed and Martin Asher are still 0.5 second apart as well. But they'll be trying to work together, and they've pulled out an 11-second lead over Nicholas Last for Sim Racing Academy in the Porsche Cup class. He's got 2.6 on Tobias Roof for Violent Racing. Still Matti Sipilä for Core Racing from 5 seconds he's pulled out on Leonard Hartenberg, and he's having a battle with Martin Weibel. And Christian Bugs right there, and Marcel Fassbender's right there. And then there's 4 seconds back to Marcus Eichhorn in the second of the BMWs, the Lippert Esports car. And for the sake of completeness, Felix Luding leads by 0.5 second from Steen Ledger for full send in TCR, with Marcus Gollenbeck only another 0.3 further back. And we've got the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in about 2 seconds. Down to Marcus Ty for Heusingfeld in the TCR category. New fastest lap for Claudius Veed in the Sim RC Cup 2 Porsche, 8:12.9. Freiburghaus into the pits at the end of that lap. Martin Erlen into the pits at the end of that lap, both from GT3 in the 5 and 188. So that's the Ring Faisiet and the Phoenix Racing cars. So that's an early stop. But sometimes we've seen that work. Get another driver in and get them into clear air. First and second in the Porsche Cup class, the Cup 2. Absolutely together. A howl of that flat 6. Flat 12 really there, isn't it, as they're on the Grand Prix circuit at the moment. So 20 minutes gone. Recalibrate your mind if you're watching us for the first time or listening to us for the first time on RS2. Yes, we're 20 minutes onto the race, but the leaders are running on their third lap, as is the case for the leaders in Cup 2, just starting their third time, heading on to the Hatzenbach at the start of the Nordschleife, the North Loop. Claudius Feed then leading out with his mirrors full of Martin Asher. Formation driving at the moment by these two, both carrying the Asher Racing decals. What I'm not seeing is Martin Asher making any kind of hostile move towards Claudius at the moment. And this is good news, because they're all of us, at the start of the lap they were 10 seconds up, now they're 13 seconds up. So these two are stretching away. What I don't know this week is whether Martin has got a co-driver. He's often done this himself. Well, he's got Marcus Jirak listed with him. Claudius Veed has got Simon Grossman listed with him on the entry list. Not always exactly as I've printed it out, and indeed there are a few gaps in the entry list that I have here for some of the drivers, which I'm filling in as we go along here. This battle for the lead going through to the end of the Foxhole. Looks to me that Martin might just be a tiny bit quicker at the moment. And an R4 stood up towards Metzgerfeld. You climb up to the top of the hill, where they are now. Lovely crisp gear changes, but not too hurried from Martin Asher. Now down into Callanhard. Late down change. Another shift up here. Yeah, little short shift. Coming down towards the bottom of the hill. And the hairpin. Yeah, Martin at the moment has got a quicker car underneath him for me. But he's not putting any really substantial, concerted moves. Ex-Müller then, bottom of the hill, the bridge. Now in TCR, as ever, all hell's breaking loose. Full Send look to be in the lead at the moment, but here comes Felix Luding down the inside. Full Send, the darker car to the right-hand side, side by side. Right in behind is the core car. A little bit of bump drafting going on there as well by the core racing machine. That's Marius Gollenbeck in that car. There's nothing between that top five. Fifth place car is Marcel T, who has the fastest lap in the class at the moment in the Heusingfeld colours. He's the dark car with the silver and red on the back of it, the fifth of those five. So it's Simarc, Full Send, Core, Zorg Rensport, the car I haven't mentioned, Yannick Danish, and they're all attacking and defending. Unless you're right at the back or right at the front. Right at the front you're just defending, right at the back you're just attacking. The three in the middle have got their heads twisting round like a demented owl at the moment. Those three, they don't know where to look. Really good driving. "20 wheels of TCR action locked together as if tied by very short and invisible bungee cords at the moment. They stretch out and in, but not by very much through the hats and back. Meantime, Bijtskevisse still trying to close on this battle for third, which is Adam Christodoulou, and right ahead still the Snitchelheim car, which is the Grosser machine. Fabio Grosser comes across the line, and again, interesting to me, with Visser just appearing onto the start-finish line now, that Christodoulou couldn't use the draft, or maybe didn't want to. Now, is this Christo being clever and saving a bit of fuel down the Dottinger Höhe? Won't necessarily be enough to get him another lap, but it will mean that his fuel fill takes a little less time. In the Vauxhall TCR category, once again, Felix Luding leads 5 cars with Marcel T on the back for Huizinfeld. This could get very messy very quickly if one of the guys at the front loses it. Golombek right in the middle in the orange, white and black Core Sim racing car, the 403. And the only one really who would have any chance of reacting to anything ahead of him is the Huizinfeld car. 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder engines. Beautifully modelled, the audio as well as the visuals. Felix Luding. He's got a little bit better of an exit there, didn't he? As he tries to pull a little bit of breathing space on the pursuing 4 TCRs as he heads down to Exmüller, and the bridge used to be a nice little change of tarmac just about where you needed to be hitting the brakes. That's all been resurfaced down there, accurately modelled as well. Nicky Lauda's corner coming up next. The still unexplained incident that Nicky had there, and then to Bergwerk. Bergwerk, an absolute exercise in patience. Can't be too early on the throttle there, otherwise you take too much of the exit curb on the left-hand side, which you don't want to do. Then you start climbing, and you're climbing for a very long time here, so actually hitting the apices of these left-handers is not that important. You want to put as little lock into the steering as you can. It's that last left-hander that they've just gone through that tightens up on you a little bit. Still accelerating, still climbing. Heading up through Kesselchen and Klosterthal. Meantime, further around the track, the battle for second, third and fourth through Flansgarden. Oh, and the Huizinfeld 718 came and going very, very wild there. That's the second place car of Leonard Hartenberg. He's dropped about 8 seconds to the leader, and if he's driving like that, I'm not surprised. He got a bit wild at Flansgarden. It is pretty flat there. There's a bit of block plate paving on the exit on the left-hand side that you always use anyway, but he was well beyond that and ran out of that quite early. Kicked up a few clods of earth to Manuel Weibel and Christian Berg, who are both sitting in behind him. Now they're onto the Dottinger Höhe. Now let's see Christian Berg, the third of these 3 cars. He should be getting a double tour. Doesn't look like they're close enough, does it? But you'll get a tour, even from the distance that they are at the moment. Looks like Weibel's pulling away. He must be running I wonder if he's running a really skinny car, and that's why it's moving around so much. Maybe a little less rear wing on it. They're just dragging back to him now, but it's taking them a very, very long time. Here comes Bug on the RSO car of Weibel. Weibel catching the leader, but they haven't got to him. The leader of this little battle pack. This is second, third and fourth. The leader in class, Matti Sippola, well away, over 8 seconds to the good. At the front of the field, the gap between first and second, Niels Koch to Sindre sets us now 6 seconds, then nearly 8 seconds back to that great battle, enthralling battle, Fabio Grossa and Adam Christodoulou. And then Bijska another 6.5 seconds further back in 5th. So still Christian Bug looking at the back of the 397 RSO car in this battle for podium positions. In the GT4 category, Adam Christodoulou looking at the back of Fabio Grossa. He's in the Graciola carousel. Christodoulou, of course, who has raced in full metal racing with some success on the Nürburgring Nordschleife, honing his talent in online racing as well. Part of a growing number of drivers in the long-established Mo4 Racing League, including some of our RSL staff you'll find in there. Their club league, I was informed by Joe Bradley, who's on commentary duty at Thruxton this weekend for a classic real-world event, where it's pouring with rain and forecast to be slightly wetter tomorrow. Yeah, Bradley just telling me that their club league has gone from the Skippy car to the SR8 Radical in their weekly racing league. It's changed recently. The SR8 just a little bit more lazy than the SR3, which I've raced in real life, which is a grand little car. Obviously the SR8 with effectively 2 4-cylinder Suzuki engines on a common crank for just under 3 litres of V8. And that is a little quicker down the straight, but I just found it a little more cumbersome through the corners. Downforce car, of course, paddle shift, 2-pedal car. Hello to those of you who may be joining us from the Spa 6 hours, which has just come to an end over on RS1. No spoilers here. I'll be catching up with that as well in a wee while. So I've done here. We'll be having plenty of replays for you. It was Bruce Jones and Johnny Palmer who were on duty there at RSL Studio if you want to talk to us. Still got plenty of racing here, just under 2.5 hours, waiting to hear and see what the strategy is going to be from the leading cars. We've had a couple of cars that have stopped early, but none of the leaders. Marla Racing, Augustin Canapino started from the pits, as did Adrenaline, the 1-2-2 at the front of the field. Cup class, Claudius V, and now just a couple of tenths ahead. In fact, these two have been working in tandem for my money. 16 seconds now they've pulled out over Nicholas Last, who is in 3rd, from Tobias Riff in 4th, another 6.5 seconds further back. Chris Herker for Renvelten Pro Team is closing in on Thomas Asmussen for 5th position in the H2 performance team, but he's a couple of seconds back, just under. I just don't get the feeling that these two, effectively teammates under the Asher Racing sponsorship. You'll notice that the Sim RC Cup car have got, with Claudius in, has got the Asher Racing logo on. It's also on Martin's car. Now he's got a really good draft. Martin pulls up to the back of Claudius. They're halfway down the Dottinger Hall. Sweep out to the left-hand side. Return the favour? I think probably so. You might just see Claudius pull back in behind him in here and get the draft back. They've been very respectful of each other. You could get at least another couple of Porsches in that gap, and probably if they weren't racing together as a team here, we might well have, certainly have done in the past. To the end of the lap then, new race leader Martin Asher goes ahead in the Porsche Cup 2 category, coming through to complete their 4th lap. Now will Claudius have a go into turn 1 on the brakes? Asher sort of defends, goes early into the pit lane exit. Buffalo Gals round the outside, possibly. No, again, respectful from those two. So these two still, I was going to say still battling. I'm still not certain that they are battling away. It just doesn't have the look of that serious a battle. Well, I say that, and maybe they're just being respectful of each other. Could be. I suppose that they don't want to put themselves in trouble so early. Matty Siepel has done a cracking job for Core in the GT4 category now, with two different manufacturers there, Porsche and BMW. The battle is behind him, but some way behind him. He's got about 10 seconds on Lennart Hartenberg for Huizinfeld. Then it's Manuel Viable for Team RSO. And behind that, it should be Christian Bug. Yeah, it is. And they've sort of dropped Marcel Fassbender in the first of the BMWs, and Andre Habendank for EFP Car Collection in one of the GT3 cars is going to come through that battle sometime soon as well. Christian Bug still on the back of those two. About 5.5, 6 seconds further back is Andre Habendank. So Verbal having another look in that RSO 397 car as they come to the end of the lap through the Tiergarten and onto the Grand Prix track again. Doing your tourist firing, you return hard left. If you turn hard left, you'd have been in the Dorrant having a cup of tea. Turn hard right. Down towards the first corner, Huizinfeld from RSO, and in third place in GT4. Behind them, fourth, Christian Bug for Zorg Rennsport. So the top four: Core, Huizinfeld, RSO, Zorg Rennsport, Esports in that GT4 category. For big names, big teams. It's now 18 seconds Niels Koch has on the field. Schnitzelam and Krista Dulu in second and third from the BMW bank teams. Fabian Schiller has just pitted, I think. Yes, he has, because he's passed that car over to Alexi Blomas. Now that's interesting. So that was at the end of lap 4 for Fabian Schiller. And he'd worked his way up to, I think, 6th, did we say, possibly 5th at the time. Canapino from the pit lane is now up to 5th, and there's only 11 seconds behind Beitske Visser in the battle at the sharp end of the field. Martin Asher and Claudius V continue their formation, driving in first and second, the 227 and the 276 Porsches for Asher and Sim RC. They've got 18.5 seconds on Nicholas Last, who's 7 seconds ahead of Tobias Ruff and 5 seconds ahead of Thomas Asmussen. He's got Chris Hurker. I said he was closing in. He's under a second now, Hurker, in the Renvelt Protein car. So Gross and Christodoulou now battling for second place. The other car that's pitted, of course, is the Manfilter HTPT. So Canapino is out of that and Jack Sedgwick is in. So once again, it's Jack Sedgwick sharing with Canapino this weekend. Here comes Christodoulou, best run we've seen him have. He eschews the opportunity to pull out though. There was definitely a wee lift there from Christo. And that was barely, well, he wasn't much further beyond the Audi Sport Bridge, but he did not take the opportunity to go through. I wonder if he's pitting this time around. He definitely had the run that time, no doubt about that in my mind. I thought he maybe didn't have the setup, and that was what he was struggling with, but he did not have the run that time around. They both go to the right-hand side. Are they peeling off in the pits? No, they're not. They go on to another lap. So Get Speed Performance, Fabian Schiller out, as we mentioned. Lexi Blomas, Axeli as he's known, in for a double stint, we hear now from the team. So there's the first vestiges, at least, of a bit of tactics playing out. ...23 or 24 laps, maybe, depending on the pace and the heat. Still 43 on the track, 27 in the air. He's going to be taking it out of these tyres. All the teams will be looking. Oh, spin out on the circuit for Nicholas Last. Oh my goodness, that was the third place car, and the red and white car that just went past him has demoted him to 4th position. So that's a change in the Cup 2 category. Tobias Ruff went through in the Violent Racing red and white car. So Nicholas there, I think, spinning on his own. Didn't see anybody else around him, even though we just caught the last of that as he was coming through the exit of Flansgarden, wasn't it? Fast part of the circuit. He'd do well if he's done no damage there. It looks pretty straight. He was off at the side of the circuit and recovering when I picked him up. Let's have a look at the VCO replay there and see what he did. At the end of Flansgarden, goes across the... Oh no, it's further back than that, my apologies. Coming to the top of the hill, down through the fast sweepers. Okay, yes, that was the... There's the jump. He's a bit further back than I thought he was. Gets onto the dirt. Oh, he did hit the wall on the left-hand side just before he headed in to Flansgarden. So that was really quick indeed. And he's been very lucky. Well, he's done damage to the left front. We say this all the time, not always easy to see the damage, but the driver will be feeling it, and I think that might require some time spent on damage rectification. 2 hours and 16 minutes to go. Round 7 of the Nürburgring Langstrecke Series digital version. With somewhere in the region of 2¼ hours to go. We are watching the battle between second and third, and I've not taken my eyes off this really since the start. In fact, it's the battle for the lead now, isn't it, of course? Because we have had a stop by the BMW, Team BMW bank car. Nils has got out of that car and in has got Kai Kashuba. So that is the battle for the lead now. Fabio Grossa and Adam Christodoulou heading back towards us at the start-finish line. So they climb through the heavily wooded section in the last third of the circuit now. Over the jump. And now heading down towards Brunchen. Keep the car tucked in on the left-hand side. Through, in fact, that was a little bit further on than I thought. They're onto the flange guard, excuse me. That's what you get for taking my eyes off the screen for a moment. Looks to me as if the tyres, the rear tyres in particular, are just starting to go for Fabio Grossa. Christodoulou with a slightly better car underneath them at the moment, I would say. They are on their 6th lap. They'll end their 6th lap at the end of this one. And I reckon one or both of these may pit at the end of this lap. Their lap times have been decent, but you've got cars behind them, of course, which have done or on laps with newer tyres. And here's the problem that they've got. They're doing 807s, and behind them, Agustin Canapino on new tyres is doing 805s, and an 803 for Kai Kashuba in the BMW bank car. Jack Sedgwick 805, been out a little bit longer now. So surely these guys have got to realise that they're in trouble. Not going to get full course cautions or slow zones, and we never get safety cars here anyway. So in comes the Snitchland car. So Christodoulou goes onto another lap. Now I'm not sure in the Huizingveld car that that's a smart thing to do. Mats Thorger, Hutzfeldt and Jan Santowski still to get in that car. Gaggle of TCR cars at the first corner. And that is led by the core car. That's Marcus Gollenbeck in the lead of the race for TCR. So the 5 has become 4. So who have we dropped? The Zorg Rennsport car has been into the pits, I reckon. Yeah, it is in the pits now. So that's dropped out of that top 5 battle, which is now left to Gollenbeck for Core. Sim Racing TCR Felix Luding in the yellow and black car in second. Full Send now in third, the 485, the dark coloured car. And the second of the dark coloured cars in there, now fourth, is the Huizingveld car in the silver, black and red. So these 4 still to make their first pit stops. And again, that may be a tactical stop, or maybe there was a bit of damage that we didn't see in that thinking for the TCR stop for Zorg Rennsport. Nicholas Schneider is in that car. Let's just check to see if he started that race. No, he didn't. Of course he didn't. It was Yannick, wasn't it, who started that race? Yannick Danish. So that has been a driver change after 5 laps completed. So they'll probably do 20, 21 laps. Oh, there's been a spin for Bajska in the BMW. Looked like the Hatson back. The little glimpse I got there. Let's have a look again. Oh, in that battle. No, that's not the place to go around the outside. Big tank slapper, but misses the barrier for Bajska. Trying to go around the outside in that middle part. I think there was a little clip on the Full Send car. And then Bajska finding reverse, or at least trying to find reverse and continue. There may be some slight damage to the left rear of that BMW Z4 and to the right front of the Audi of Marcel T for the Steam. It is, of course, isn't it? Steam Ledger in the Full Send Racing 485 car, and that's allowed the leading pair just to pull away by a second or so and split that battle up. That's absolutely typical Nürburgring, isn't it? Faster cars coming through. Still waiting to see what happens at the sharp end of the field as Adam Christodoulou's coming to the end of his 7th lap. Bajska, of course, at that point was in 2nd place, but she's dropped a huge amount of time. Something in the region of 20 seconds with that mistake in traffic. Just hadn't quite cleared the TCR car. She'll be annoyed with herself for that. The Full Send Racing 485 car absolutely doing the right thing. The virtual drivers briefing. The class cars stay on the racing line. It's up to the faster cars to pick their way through. Kai Kashuba is setting the timing screen alight at the moment. So Christodoulou, Visser, Christian Andreas, France, the top 3 have not stopped. First car that stopped at the front of the field is the BMW Bank, the pole sitting car, the 107. Kashuba has taken that car over and he has picked up exactly where Niels Koch finished at the end of the first 5 laps. Here's Visser coming through those TCR leaders again as they climb up from Bergwerk through Kesselchen on the way to Klosterdal now, right on the far side of the circuit. Christodoulou surely has to pit this time around. What have we got left? Just coming down to the 2-hour mark. Well, as it stands, 22 or 23 laps, I reckon, this race. Been a bit of an argy and bargy. Oh, big spin again for the bright green. This is we're in the Cup 2 class there. And that bright green Porsche was the one we saw spinning early in the race. And that's gone around again. Now more traffic for the TCR leading pack to have to deal with. Stijn Ledger with Marcel T, they're battling for 3rd and 4th, and through comes a pride of GT3 cars. And there's so few places on the Nürburgring Nordschleife where you can easily let even a much faster car go through. Now, into the pit lane. These are the leading cars in the GT4 category, so your Caymans and the first of the BMWs. Looks like the RSO car's got out. Weibel looks like he's just got out in front of the core car, and it's the race on the pit lane speed limiter. So maybe a short fill there to try and get track position. Weibel and Pascal Stix now behind the wheel of the Core Sim Racing 2, so a driver change for Core, but Weibel stayed in. So those guys were battling at the very sharp end of the Cup category. Weibel, Stix, Maxi Fritz now behind the wheel of the 301 Huizinfeld car. Sascha Berger for Zorg Rennsport. And then it looks like it's Sandro Petroziolo for Liepert in the first, the BMWs in 5th. Here comes the overall leader to the end of the lap. It's Adam Christodoulou for Huizinfeld. And this time, he surely will come into the pit lane. This will be the end of 7 laps. We expect to see a driver change to Mats Thorger Huthfeld. Huthfeld will then hand over to Sentowski, and that's spot on the hour, or just under the hour. But I don't think there would have been very much more in the tank there for Adam. Here comes Beitske. Beitske Visser did a pretty good job. She'll be cursing her luck. And that slight misjudgment going through the TCR lead battle. The bright yellow Phoenix Audi, I think, will come in as well for Christian Andreas Franz, should do, and is. So that should allow Kaika Schubert to come through any second now. And there he is. My goodness, he'd already closed right up on them. Here come the TCR cars. The leading TCR cars are into the pit lane as well. And that looked to me as though it's the top 4 coming in. Luding was leading there from Gollenbeck, from Ledger, and then Ty. So Sim TCR, Core, Full Send and Huizinfeld, pretty much as quick as you could say that, were all together again as they came in. Matthias Sauer in the WS Racing by Nürburgring Audi should be the next one by. He's not stopped, but of course the Zorg Rennsport car has, and now has Nicholas Schneider at the wheel. So Sauer has pitted as well, as Sedgwick's gone through in second for Manfilter Team HTP Windward. That was the car that he took over relatively early on, didn't he? So that's been a net gain for the Mann-Filter racing car. Sindre Setsats qualified and did the first 4 laps. Sedgwick took over, probably for a double in the middle, so that could be as many as 12 or 14 laps, depending on their stint. I clearly need to put some more coal on the fire of my old computer here, because I'm still not getting the details of how many laps we might get. But we're down to the hour mark now. Let's call it 6 and a bit laps. 3 6s are 18. And if it's 3/3, that would only make it a 19 lap race, which would be a short lap indeed. Very short lap indeed. The TCR battle continues after their pit stops, and the interest there will be as to where Nicholas Schneider turns up after the leaders ahead of him made the pit stop, because they were a little bit out of kilter. Looks to me as if Jürgen Frank has got back out in the lead from Patrick Kabijny and Lars Boll, then Michael Brauchiken for Huizingveld, and then Schneider. So it hasn't worked for Zorg Rennsport with that early stop. But he's not too far off the leading quartet, and maybe with his tyres up to temp and pressure, he can get somewhere close to them in the early part of the stint. Core Racing just beaten to the punch there, coming out of the pit lane at the end of that pit stop. Welcome to those of you joining us after the WEC race on RS1. Thanks to Bruce Jones and Johnny Palmer for their excellent coverage of the final round of the WEC before Le Mans this year. This is the DNLS round 7, the NEMIX 3-hour race. John Hindhaugh on RS3 and now RS1, and you join us just after the first hour of racing has been completed, and it's been an absolute cracker. Already the tactics are kicking in. Leading at the sharp end of the field is Kai Kashuba for Team BMW Bank. That was the car that qualified on pole position. Niels Koch did the first 5 laps and handed over to Kai relatively early on, and they've held on to the lead. But the big winner after the first round of pit stops has been Mann-Filter Team HTP. Jack Sedgwick went into that car even a lap earlier than the pole sitter. Now in second place, although 14 seconds behind the leader. But he's got half a minute on J-Mo Hertling for Schnitzelam Racing. So the 2 yellow AMG GT3s are second and third. Alexia Lomas, another big winner. Fantastic first stint for Fabian Schiller that brought that car up through the field. And Alexi got in again quite early, and the bright red Vodafone Get Speed car now just 1.3 seconds off a podium position ahead of Team Huizingveld 101, Mats Thorge Hertzfeld, who's taken over from Adam Christodoulou. Behind that, it's the Marla Racing team. Daniel Lafuente took over from Augustin Canapino, who started from the pit lane. Not entirely certain, but there was 2 or 3 cars that didn't get into their grid places in time, and he started from the pit lane after the GT3 cars had gone. The Argentinian doing very well indeed to pull that car up. 7th position at the moment, Adrenaline Motorsport. Michael Besic in the 1-2-2 is another 16 seconds further back, and he's got 11 seconds on the BS competition BMW. Sem Bulekbazi, who's taken over from Beitske-Visser, who was up to second at one place on the pit lane rotation and driving really well, but caught up left rear wheel with a TCR car when putting a lap on the top 4 who were battling on the Hatzenbach. In the early part of the lap, that lost her the better part of 20 seconds. Kevin Volk is now behind the wheel of the Phoenix Racing Esport bright yellow with the red stripe, the number 14 car. He's 9th, and those 9 cars are within 95 seconds of each other at the sharp end of the GT3 field. EFP and Andres Haberding, Martin Erlen, Ring VZ, Sim Racing and Cedric Ting Freiburghaus for Phoenix. They are all out of position with other classes between them having had issues, starting from the pit lane as well for some of those cars, but they have not been able to fire their way back through onto the back. So Haberdang in 10th in class, but he's 17th overall with pretty much the whole of the Porsche Cup 2 class behind him. Then it's the Ring Faziad Sim Racing by Nürburgring Esports, Martin Erlen, who's been in that car since the start, the green and white Audi, but he's 5.5 minutes back to the leader. And then Cedric Tim Freiburghaus stopped early in the Phoenix Racing car, the lighter blue with the red stripe, and that's the end of the top dozen in GT3. In the 911 Cup class, Simon Grossman leads for Sim RC Cup 2. They've stopped, as have all the GT3 cars I've mentioned. Asher Racing and Martin Asher, who didn't hand over, I noticed at that pit stop. But Simon Grossman is listed against, Marcus Hirak is listed against that car. Martin in the black and dark red machine was having a pretty decent battle with the black and yellow car at the start of the race, but they both have the same sponsor, Asher Racing, so I'm not sure how real the battles were. Lars Bermanier has taken over the 3rd place Violent Racing machine, but there is damage on that car, and that's costing them top speed and a bit of handling right front with some damage on that car. H2 Performance are in 4th with Manuel Meyer. It's the black number 222. And all of these cars again have made their first stops. Behind that in the Cup class is Bernd Zabel for Project GT1.de. That's the 285 car. It's the mostly green car with a grey stripe over the roof. Great liveries, yeah? Fantastic. He's about 1.25 minutes away from the leader. Samir Ibrahimi, Renvelten Pro Teams Porsche. He's another 12 seconds further back in the 249. So on the bright orange rear wing, easy to spot. And then in 7th position, which is again the last of the cars in a line on the timing screen, Mario Yuri for Sim Racing Academy. He's another 23.5 seconds further back in the 291. Sim Racing Academy colours of grey, red and black. And again, that car's been off the road, clattered the barriers, and that's got left front damage. But they have been into the pits and they've had some rectification done on that, and it seems to be picking up its pace and looking pretty good. In the GT4 category, actually we'll go to 8th in the Porsche class. The Derna Motorsport Club AV, Niels Badorf is in 8th position, but he's a couple of cars between him. He's got the one of the GT3s that's out of place between him, so he's actually in 18th position overall for Derna Motorsport. Novell Racing, Taku Watanabe, he is in the 24 car. That's the blue machine, and he's got a car between himself as well, hasn't he? Behind him, about another minute further back, Pascal. Oh no, hang on a second, that's a GT4 car. So that is all of the Cup cars, isn't it? That's the 9 Cup cars. Yes, it is. I see Porsche and I just want to move on. So Watanabe for the Novell Racing with Ring Racing in 9th. GT4 starts at 21st overall. And that then is Pascal Stix for Core Sim Racing in the 303. In second in that class is Manuel Weibel in the RSO, the blue and white car. And Maxi Fritz for Huizingveld and Sorg Rensport. Those are the four that's been battling the Porsche Cayman GT4s, still ruling the roost in GT4, even after the introduction of the M4 GT4 a couple of months ago now. So Stix leads it out from Weibel for RSO. Again, all have made their first pit stops in the teal, blue and white number 397. It's got about 5 seconds to make up on the leader. Maxi Fritz has taken over the Huizingveld 301 car in third, which is in the silver, black and red colours of Team Huizingveld with the big H on the front. And he's nearly 19 seconds back from the leader, or if you prefer, 13 seconds from second. And he's got 5 seconds on Sascha Burger for Sorg Rensport Esports, who's in fourth. So they're having a little bit of a lonely run after a pretty feisty opening hour to the race before they made their pit stops. After that in GT4 is the first of the BMWs, and that is Marcel Fassbender for Sim RC. And he was right up there, giving the Porsches a little bit of grief early on, which was good to see, but ultimately the BMW hasn't been able to stay with it. And the SimRC.de Carbon BMW, and I promise you it is a BMW under that colour scheme, although it looks a little less BMW-like unless you're looking at it straight on. It's the trick of the darker rear hindquarters on that car, I think. Sandro Petroziolo for Leopard Esports 353, another yellow car. 40 seconds back from the lead. And then Patrick Hen for Adrenaline in the 334 is another 5.2 seconds further back. We get the TCR in a moment, but let's pick up some battles for position here. Third and fourth, Schnitzelam Racing and Team Huizingveld have been tied together no matter who's in the car. At the moment, it's Jimo Hertling for Schnitzelam, then Huizingveld has Mats Thungisch Hufveld, and then it's Alexi Aloma for Vodafone. So that is a 3-car AMG battle for what amounts to third place at the moment, with Kashuba from Sedgwick leading and in second position. Through the Graciola carousel and still climbing to the top of the circuit into Hua Act. Sweeping through the serpentine sections of the wooded area of the circuit, which is effectively like a street race through a forest, isn't it? No margin for error. Half a car's width, you're on the grass. A full car's width, you've hit the arm coat, frankly, if you're offline. Then down to Wipperman, where you get off the ground. Eichbach, and down to Brunchen, where the spectators congregate even on the tourist laps. So easy to drop off the block paving on the exit of that long right-hander and spin up a tyre. These guys are too good for that. And under the trees, left then right, picking up speed onto the mighty Flansgarden. It's quite bumpy, but it's still fast. It's just accelerating all the time, and again the car. And there's a crown on the road here as well. And quite often you're going backwards and forwards across the crown on the road, and that will unsettle a race car. You don't settle a race car for a run on the Nordschleife the way you would on a billiard table smooth Grand Prix type circuit. You've got to have some compliance in the cars, because when you're going back over that camber in the middle of the road, the car can quite easily become unsettled. Through the Kleiner carousel, and through onto the Gallows Hill corner. A fantastically difficult 3 pressure corner that leads onto the long, fast Dottinger. So you have to get the last part of it right and take as many kilometres or miles an hour as you can onto the long straight. And even though there's a little kink in it where the Bilstein advertising hoarding is, it's a straight because you're flat through there, you're flat through the bottom of the hill, you're even flat through the first 2 parts of the Tiergarten. They've got traffic ahead, and the Get Speed car's picking up a double tour here. Hasn't managed to drag up before the crossover bridge at the Bilstein area, and they'll stay as they are, coming to the end of what will be their 9th lap. Expecting 23 lap race at the moment is what I'm seeing. I'm going to keep an eye open on that. I'm not sure that we'll get that many through, but all right. Remember, in iRacing, the checkered flag, or at least the last lap board, doesn't come out until the lap, or the time counter elapses completely. That could be with just a couple of corners to go, or with just a couple of corners gone, depending on where the leaders are. Just a reminder that ahead of this battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th, Kai Kashuba leads for the pole-sitting Team BMW Bank Z4 by 14.5 seconds from Jack Sedgwick, who's been a real revelation in the Manfilter Team HTP Winward car. Already with a win under their belts this season. Took 2 seconds out of the leader last time around. 8:07 from the BMW, 8:05 for the AMG in 2nd position. It's all about the battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th at the moment. Marcel Fassbender, best of the BMWs in GT4. Cutting back the gap to the leader, I seem to think here. So he's got a bit of clear track, and he's using that very nicely indeed. Just out of the pits, it would seem. Put 2 very quick sectors in at the sharp end of the lap. And yes, he's pulling time back on the leader. And he's only 5.5 seconds away from the 4th place Porsche. That in the shape of Maxi Fritz in the Zorg Rennsport. Sorry, Sasha Berger in the Zorg Rennsport, number 333. Meantime, that battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th is heading down through the foxhole. So recently having started their lap on the Nordschleife. In the other classes, we didn't get down to TCR, so let me quickly run down you the TCR running order. Jürgen Franks just put his personal best in of the race with an 86.551. An 8:56.551. He leads by 0.3 of a second from Patrick Kabinji for Core, and Lars Boll for Full Send Racing is another 2 seconds further back. And they're all putting quick laps in at the moment. Michael Brauchigen for Heusingfeld 404 is another 9.5 seconds back, but he's in a 3-car train with Niklas Schneider and René Kirchhoff for Team Nürburgring. TCR battle. Patrick Henn in the Adrenaline Motorsport BMW in 7th position. Then the T3 Motorsports by Getq. Tobias Berker heading down to the bridge as well. Halfway around the track or thereabouts at Exmüller. The Digital Nürburgring Langstrecke Series, powered by VCO. The NEMIX 3 hours, round 7. And we continue to cover this season throughout the year in sound vision and enhanced timing here on the Radio Shulman network of channels. RS1 now joined us, and RS3, as we have been from the start, as well as the pictures at radio-show.co.uk or wherever you normally watch this series, because there's a number of places that are taking it. Oh, little mistake there from Jonas Hartmann and the AMC Bergenfeld EV Stabel release. As the Porsche just wobbling a tiny bit as the battle for third rumbles past, and that will be a big rumble, won't it, with those 3 AMGs as they head up the hill now, close to Thaler, towards the bottom of the Caracciola carousel. Right over to the right-hand side of the track before they turn in, trying to open out the right-hander at Klostertal. Now in the braking area, got to stay off the curbs here, they're really vicious. Mats-Thorger Hudsfeld took over the car from Adam Christodoulou. It looks like they're breaking up the cars, the race as close as they can into 3 1-hour stints. I'm not sure that helped them, because Adam's lap times went out a little bit on his 6th and 7th lap, whereas the cars who pitted before him got an advantage. He had been up in 2nd place for a while. The Get Speed car was one of the machines that pitted slightly earlier. That's the bright red AMG, 3rd in that line of cars that are battling. There, Fabian Schiller got out of that car at the end of lap 4. That's when Alexei took over, which means actually that he hasn't got that many laps to go. He's been 5, probably 1 or 2 more laps for the Vodafone car. He stopped on the same lap as the Mann-Filter car in 2nd place, but 1 lap ahead, 2 laps ahead of the 2 cars that he's battling at the moment. So he's 2 laps worse off than the Heusingfeld and the Schnitzerland car that's ahead of him. So still some strategy to play out here in round 7 of the DNLS powered by VCO. Alexei Aloma, who I have to say, Fabian Schiller did a great job at the start of the race and carved his way through into the top 6, top 5 in fact. Alexei has taken on the mantle. Still the track temperature up at almost 43 degrees Celsius, and that will be playing into the minds of all of these drivers. They'll be in contact with their teams, of course, and that either they'll have a team manager stroke strategist stroke engineer, or one of the drivers who isn't in the seat at the time will be looking at the tyre and fuel numbers side by side, coming into the dip at the end of the Dottinger Höhe, and that's a change for 3rd place as the Heusingfeld car goes round the outside and followed through by the Get Speed car. That was so close to absolute disaster as the Get Speed car goes through into 4th place. Alexei Aloma, what a great manoeuvre. There was barely enough room to get through before the right-hander at the end of the lap. And it's not enough for Alexei. He's going to go straight into 3rd place. He's never going to get that stopped into turn 1. He's going to lose 1, possibly both of the places that he was challenging for. Oh, he's just about hung on. That was ambitious, shall we say. And fair play, very fair play to all the drivers there. Heads up stuff. And Mats-Thorger Hudsfeld gave him room. Jack Sedgwick's in the pits, by the way, so this is now the battle for 2nd we're talking about. Now that, to me, would seem a little bit early from Sedgwick. He's only done 5 laps. So 4 laps for Setzer, then Sedgwick 5 laps. I mean, that's 6 laps for Sedgwick. Okay, 6 laps for Sedgwick. Right, okay, that's kind of there. They must be thinking then, I'm guessing then 6, another 6 will take to 16, then another 6 to 22. They're thinking 22 or 23 laps maximum. So they need to put another driver into that car. It's the regulations, you've got to have 2 driver changes. And 6 or 7 laps is as much as you want to do on a set of tyres. We really saw a drop off in Adam Christodoulou's last couple of laps. So Team BMW banked by 50 seconds. Then Huizingveld, the 101 car from Vodafone, Team GetSpeed, then Schnitzelam Racing, then 7 seconds back to the Marla Racing team, who started in the pit lane. Don't know why they weren't on the grid, whether it was a late setup change that they didn't quite get done after qualifying. But it was a great drive through by Agustin Canapino, and Danilo Fuente has taken over that car, and he's still under a minute away from the leaders. Now in TCR, all Audis, of course, Jürgen Frank can virtually smell the aftershave of Patrick Kabinji. He was so close in the draft there for course sim racing. Now through to the end of the lap complex, bouncing touring car style, of course you would do in a TCR, over the curbs. Jürgen Frank, been in the car since the start. See, I've just said that and I'm now not sure. Let me check that. And no, it was Felix Luding that started that car. My apologies. So Jürgen coming through to the end of his the car's 8th lap, and his, I think that's the end of his 3rd lap that he's been in the car. Sitting in behind them is the 3rd place car of Full Send Racing, the darker coloured Audi with the green flashes, and that is the Full Send Racing. Lars Ball behind the wheel of that. This battle was split up for a while when the leading GT3s came through, but after the pit stops they've all come back together again. 4th is Michael Brauchigen for Huizingveld, another silver and black car. He's 12 seconds away from that 3-car battle for the lead, and he's got about 3 seconds on Nicholas Schneider in the Zorg Rennsport Esports car. But Schneider has got René Kirchhoff behind him, and there's nothing between those two. The red and white car of Kirchhoff has got some battle damage on it. The 2 little scuffs. But the Avia team Zorg Rennsport car ahead. Do you know what? I said that and I thought it had some damage on the front of that car. Maybe it hasn't. Marian Hensel for Leiper Esports, the yellow and black car, is in 7th, and that's another 4 seconds further back, but still barely 25 seconds, in fact not even 25 seconds away from the leader, so still plenty of racing to go on there. Matthias Sauer at WS Racing by Nürburgring, there's the big gap, there's 21 seconds further back, so now you're all of a sudden out there the better part of a minute in the GT tyres liveried car. That's the Durham, and then behind that the Durham Motorsport car. And Dominic Spica in the 455. And in that category, by the way, at the sharper end of the field, Lars Ball just set that car's new fastest lap of the race. 8:56.744 as Andre Haberdank has come into the pits in the GT3. That's the EFP car collection, number 33. Now, that seems... Well, they were off strategy, weren't they? I was going to say that seems a bit early to me. Now, he's done 7 laps, that's right. He took over from Jens at the start of that race. So that 7 laps is about as much as you'll get, particularly in this heat and with the new fuel regulations. So, let's see who's stopping next. Lomas can't be far away. End of this lap or the next lap, the Vodafone team get speed red. GT3, which, having passed the 2 cars that were ahead of it, has cleared off a wee bit. Kai Kashuba, I reckon, has got 1 or 2 more laps. Alexi's got 1 or 2 more laps. The car that has stopped latest in the leading group is the Heusingfeld car in 3rd position as it stands at the moment. Oh, he's the leader in. Well, that's interesting. That's going to make that a 6-lap run for Kai Kashuba when he crosses the line. Now, fuel is an absolute because it goes in at a fixed rate for everybody. And then you must have tyres in GT3 when you stop. So, fill to a full tank at this stage of the race. And the only difference in your pit stop time will be how much fuel you had left in the tank and you were able to save. And I would suggest that Kai, having not had much to fight against, will have been doing a little bit of lifting and coasting. It was Niels Koch, of course, who started the 107 car. And those are the only 2 drivers I've got listed against them. So this then becomes the battle for the lead because, as I expected, the Vodafone team car has come in. So this is now the battle for the lead going down into turn 1, side by side at Heusingfeld. Now, Schnitzelau sitting in 2nd there then, with Jemo Hertling and Max Thorger Hutzfeld is now leading the race. And I reckon probably going to go a couple of laps more. At least a couple of laps more. Sorry, I've miscalculated that. 7. I reckon he'll go to lap 14, so somewhere near the end of lap 14. They seem to be splitting it up into 7-lap stints, which, as I said, for Team Heusingfeld, I'm not sure that worked with Adam Christodoulou, but we'll see. I'm still seeing 22 laps. 22 laps, so that's at the moment 11 laps to go. It's going to be close between 22 and 23 laps at the moment. So divide that up however you want. This is for the leading cars, of course. RS3, Sound and Vision. RS1 joining us as well. For a full weekend of sport already, both in the real and the virtual worlds. 6 hours of Spa earlier, had everything in it. Everything. If you missed it, the archive already at radio-show.co.uk. Catch up on that in hour-long bite-sized pieces. Midweek Motorsport on Wednesday, RS1, 8 o'clock UK time. Join us for the VCO Victory Lane interviews. Talking a bit of virtual racing, as will our Tora radio show, looking at the wide world of sim racing on Thursday at 8 o'clock UK time, followed by On the Grid. Our affable Australian colleagues looking at motor racing both in their part of the world and across the globe, but with a slightly more laid back, throw another shrimp on the barbie type of attitude. And I'll say now, they say that themselves before I get into trouble. at RSL_studio. Tony Shebeki and Richard Creel and the rest of the gang. And they've had a busy weekend in Australia this weekend with a triple header at Darwin, with the return after about a month or so of Virgin Supercars. Top of the shop in TCR, on the dot to get hurt. Jürgen Frank leads it. Patrick Kabinji, well, he's got a massive room compared to what he had last time, but he's still getting the draft. He may have run out of revs. He might just be on the soft limiter there, as he's right in behind the one, in behind the 476 car. Down through the gearbox. So difficult to get by, even with the draft. Now, another car coming in behind them is the 267. That's third in the Porsche Cup class, Lars Bermela for Violent. And that could well be a part of the story here in the red and white Cup car that's coming as they come to turn 2 now. Big sweep to the right-hand side by the Core Racing driver. And that, I think, is very clever. Just trying to see if there's anything that he can make an advantage of. This is Patrick Kabinji I'm talking about. Schnitzelau and Mahler Racing team, and ahead of them, the Heusingfeld car. So this is first, second and third. Mahler going great guns. Remember, starting from the pit lane by Canapino. Daniel Lafuente behind the wheel of that car now. And Lafuente took over from Canapino at the end of lap 6. So he's due a pit stop, I reckon, at the end of this lap. So has not yet made his second pit stops. First of the cars that's made the second pit stops, I reckon, is the 107 car. And Kai Kashuba seems to have stayed aboard that. So looks like Kai's going to double stint in the middle of the race, and Niels will jump in back in at the end for that. Jack Sedgwick looking to do the same thing for Manfilter Team HTP Winwood, also having completed their second stop, but not their second driver change, and you must do 2 driver changes in GT3. That's the 48 car in 5th position. So more than halfway around the 12th lap then for Mats Thorge Hufsfeldt. Jim O'Hertling for Schnitzelau Racing. Never been to Schnitzel restaurant, having not been to Germany for some time. It is on my list. Early in the season we looked it up and the menu looks phenomenal. All schnitzel all day apparently. And anyone who knows me and knows my stature will not be surprised to know that I do like a good schnitzel. I don't mind an average schnitzel, if I'm honest. I just like schnitzel. It's the time of day when I'm getting a bit peckish as well. Had a snack before coming on the air, but I feel the need for some calories and a bit of catch-up sport later on. Been a busy day today. MotoGP qualifying, don't tell me. First race in GP2 and F2 and F3 today as well. Don't tell me. F1 qualifying I have seen, but I won't spoil it if you haven't. And then I've got the last hour and a half of Nürburgring to catch up on as well, because I was getting prepped for this. Before that, I'd been watching along with Johnny and Bruce. So I feel an evening of more motorsport coming on and a more relaxed day tomorrow. Kashuba then sitting in 4th position, but very handily placed. Probably coming in at the end of this lap, behind this battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Jim O'Hertling Daniel Lafuente, I think, will go around again. Great run by the Marla Racing Audi. So 2 AMG GT3s and an Audi R8 GT3. Oh, now one of them's peeling off, and it's the Schnitzelam team. Well, I'm a little surprised at that. I am just a little surprised. But maybe they're looking for the performance advantage of a new set of tyres. That's very interesting for me. Very interesting indeed. So they are splitting it up into 6-lap runs. We've seen this work before. Kashuba did 6 laps on his first run and came in for the team BMW. Canapino started from the pit lane and did 6 laps. Lafuente's now done 6 laps. So still leading Max Hutzfeldt by just half a second for Lafuente as the Schnitzelam Racing car has pitted and Fabio Grossa is back in the seat. He's the man who started, so that's the second driver change as well. So Jamo Hertling came into the pits there at the end of that lap. So surely Marla will come in at the end of this next lap. But who's going to have the advantage at the sharp end of the field? In the 107, Kashuba will cycle through. I'm just trying to break this down. If Kashuba goes another 6 laps there, 11 to 17, he may only have a 4-lap dash to the end. Still 22 laps being predicted on the computer. So again, it's all about that last run and who might have the better tyre. You don't want to be caught on all tyres at the end. Lafuente, I think, will be in at the end of this lap in the Marla Racing car in second. I'm pretty certain the Huizenfeld 101 leading car will stay out. They did 7 laps opening stint for Adam Christodoulou. Oh, pass for the lead down the inside into the top of the foxhole. That is an audacious manoeuvre, sweeping out of the left-hander at Schwedenkreuz and making the pass before Ehrenberg. What a fabulous manoeuvre that was. Maybe just caught Max Hutzfeldt just slightly unawares. It is such a quick entry into Ehrenberg through that tough left-hander where you come across the brow of the hill, just trying to settle the car down. I've seen sometimes even people just trail the brakes a little bit there on the top of the hill to keep the car on the ground. And then staying to the right-hand side, letting the car breathe, and just sent it up the inside into Ehrenberg. That was brilliant stuff. Now, that's interesting to me. That's very interesting indeed. That Daniel Lafuente felt the need to get that done. Very interesting indeed. It's now the computer has just gone down to 21 laps, but I'm absolutely certain at this pace we're going to get 22. But it will change depending on who's in the lead, what their average laps times are. At RSL_studio, if you want to get in touch, it's John Hindle. We are just over half distance by about 15 minutes. And the NEMIX 3-hour race for round 7 of the VCO Digital NLS is boiling up nicely.
Eine Legende. Die gefährlichste Rennstrecke der Welt. Der kleinste Fehler wird sofort bestraft. Denn nur wer auf Qualität setzt, kann das Rennen gewinnen.
Spezialfedern. Das Fahrwerk.
So, all of the big brains are doing their jobs at the moment, whether it's one of the drivers that's not in the seat, whether it's someone who's specifically looking at the software. Hello, by the way, John Hindhoff with you, and the action from the 7th round with the DNLS, powered by VCO. It's the NEMIX 3-hour race on the Nordschleife, of course. Season building up nicely, isn't it? Lovely weather. And battles going on at the sharp end of the field, with the first and second place cars coming down the Dottinger Höhe, and La Fuente, I reckon, coming in at the end of this lap in the Mahler Racing Audi, which started from the pit lane, was not on parade as the grid formed halfway down the Dottinger Höhe, right whereby you come out for the tourist fahren. So let's see if that Mahler Racing Williams Esports car peels off to the right. It does indeed. My reading of the software has done its job. Computer doing all the work. All I've got to do is interpret it, which leaves it open to human error, of course. Through has gone Max Hutzfeld, who I reckon will do another couple of laps. And Kai Kashuba's just put a new fastest lap of the race in going up to second place on that lap. It's down to an 8:01.667. That's not that far away from qualifying pace. Track temperature still hot, 42 degrees Celsius, 27 in the air, virtually no change since the start of the race. As La Fuente, now with 9 laps to go to the end of the race, is what the computer says. And it looks as though he's staying in the race and behind the wheel. Fuel going into that car at the moment. I haven't seen it go up on its jacks, but you can't double stint tyres in GT3. You have to take full 4 tyres, and we've seen people caught out by that, haven't we, at the start of the season. Meantime, in TCR, Jürgen Frank has been caught by Patrick Kabinji. Well, he was about 3 laps or 4 laps ago, and they've been circulating with about room for maybe half an Audi between them for the last couple of 3 laps. Sim RC TCR from Core Sim Racing TCR, and they've got 15.5 seconds on Michael Brautigan for Team Huizinfeld 404 in 3rd place, and then there's 51 seconds back to Nick Schneider for Zorg Rennsport, and then it's Lucas Kauper for Leipert Esports. He's made another stop there, hasn't he, for the Leipert car? Let me just check that out on my pit stop guide. Because that means he's dropped back. Yeah, he's taking over from Marion. So he'll take that car to the end. 2 5-lap stints for Leipert. And again, this is all about tyres and splitting up the race into manageable chunks for the tyres. What they'll probably be doing in TCR is only changing the front tyres at the driver's middle stop. So leaving the rears on, let the rears do 10 laps, and you change the fronts at each stop. It's very, very hot on the track. Very hot indeed. This is quality stuff, and these two have been at it for such a long time. Patrick Kabinji, he's been right up underneath the rear wing so many times going down the Dottinger, but for some reason just hasn't had the revs to go by. Actually, and I know the guys who are cutting the pictures are listening to this, wouldn't mind having an onboard next time they get onto the long Dottinger, because I've got a feeling that Patrick is actually running out of revs and that he hasn't got anything more to pull out and sweep by. In some respects, you need to time it just right to get that effect in the hole in the air that the TCR car ahead of you is making. And sometimes it's better to be a little bit further back through the Gallows Hill corner and then use the whole of the straight to drag up and then dive out to the right-hand side just as you're coming in the braking area for the twisties at the end of the lap. Now, having to make way for the Porsche Cup car in 4th position, that's Mario Jury in the Sim Racing Academy red team. So, oh, that's loud, the pass. Well. Much easier than we thought, as the Sim RC car was allowing Jury to go through on the Schwalbenschwanz, the Kleine Carousel. It all happened, and what an anticlimax. Unless, of course, the Sim RC car, the yellow and black car, does what we were talking about. Here comes the drag. Here comes the extra pace. It looks like nothing's going to happen, and then all of a sudden, here comes the second place car. That's beautifully timed, but he's going to have a Porsche right there. He's pulled out in front of him, but that might just make it happen. He'll get an extra little bit of draft from the Porsche behind him, and there is a perfect illustration of what I was talking about. I wonder if that was then deliberate by Jürgen at the front of the field, Jürgen Frank for Sim RC. He fell out of the groove. Is he coming into the pits? Yes, he is. They both are. They're both coming into the pits. Well, that was a perfect illustration, wasn't it? He fell out of the groove coming through the Kleine Carousel as he had to let Jury through, but didn't lose his cool, used the draft, slipped out to the right-hand side when he got the run and made the pass. Still comes into the pits in the lead. And Michael Brautigan, by the way, for Heusingfeld 404 team, has pitted as well. So Nicholas Schneider should be the next car around, and we'll probably see him into the pits as well. Really quick pit stops for those cars. It looked as well as if the Porsche that was involved in that pitted as well from right in front of them. Well, once in a while, you know, I say something and then it happens. Wish I could do that with the lottery numbers. Right, let's remind you what's going on at the top of the shop. Kai Kashuba's just put another fastest lap of the race in last time around. Mats Thorge Hudfeld leads by just 8 seconds at the moment and needs to make a pit stop. Adam Christodoulou started, did 7 laps. Mats Thorge is now on his 7th lap, and I reckon will pit and hand the car over to Jan Santowski at the end of this one. So they're thinking 21, 22 laps, aren't they? 3 7-lap stints. I've got bad news for them. The computer's back to saying 22 again now. It'll cycle between them depending on what the lap times are and who's in the lead and who's just stopped. There's been virtually no change in the track temperature and the air temperature, so tyres are still taking a little bit of a hammering. The TCR battle is rejoined pretty much where we left it off, except Kabinji has got to the head of the field ahead of Jürgen Frank after their pit stop. Brautiken is still in 3rd, but is now 22 seconds behind. Nicholas Schneider from Zog Rensport is in 4th. 5th is Lucas Kauper for Leipert. And then right in behind them, as my timing screen just decides to go a bit strange. No, it's Rennie Kirchhoff who's right in behind Kauper. Yeah, it is, Team Nürburgring. Exactly as I thought. So Huizinfeld 101 leading, but about to stop. I reckon stopping now, in fact. Has just pulled into the pit lane. So disregard what I'm about to tell you, because it means Kai Kashuba has gone through into the lead, because Lafuente and Hutzfeldt have both stopped that time around. Jack Sedgwick then will go up into 2nd place and has done as he crosses the line in the Manfilters HTP Winward car. So that's the 2nd place car going into the 1st corner. It's Phoenix Racing, Kevin Volk, who should be coming through any time now. No, he's pitted. So he's into the pit lane. So then it's Vodafone Team Get Speed, Alexei Aloma. Now, what's his laps? Well, he's just pitted. So can he go to the end? I don't think he can. So it's all going to be some short stints towards the end of this. Aloma's gone up into 3rd. Lafuente, I reckon, now 4th. Santowski for Huizinfeld in 5th position, but already 1:20 away from Kai Kashuba. And that's everyone now done 2 pit stops. Can Marla Racing go to the end? Oh, it's going to be close, you know. It's going to be very close for Marla Racing. Depends whether it's 21 or 22 laps. If it's 22, they can't. So they'll do a short stop. So expect to see Eloma do another couple of laps and maybe then hand it back. Lafuente do another 3 or 4 laps and hand it back for a 6 or 5 lap stint at the end by Agustin Canapino. That would be my guess. It's a guess at the moment. The computer can give me all of the stops and time to run, etc. Can't read the minds of the people doing the tactics at the moment. Great battle for 5th and 6th, proving that you don't have to be battling for a podium position to have some fun. René Kirchhoff looking at the back end of Lucas Kauper for Leipert, with the Team Nürburgring red and white Audi sitting in behind. They're down to X-Müller at the bottom of the hill. Across the bridge and just break where that access road comes in from the right hand side, and then where you come on, used to be able to get on there as a tourist lap, do a sort of a half lap, second half of the circuit. Coming up now towards the very frustrating Bergwerk. Take as much speed as you can there because she's climbing all the time now. Heading up towards the mighty Kesselchen. Went through there, maybe 993, 135 miles an hour. And the car was skipping around a bit there, I've got to tell you. Side by side, heading up towards close to Tal. That's brave. You can do it, but you need help from the person that you're racing against. Ah, smashing stuff from both the guys there. Really, really smashing stuff. Love to see that. That's a change for fifth then, in class. Team Nürburgring taking that position. Just on an hour and 3 minutes to go. Check that, just on an hour to go. The wrong part of the clock there. So from here, 8 laps, 7 laps to go, surely, in an hour. Just going to depend where the leader is. It's going to be 21 or 22. I tell you, this is going to be tight for some of these drivers. I'm loving this. We have seen earlier in the season when the temperatures were right, and in fairness, there was a little more fuel for the GT3 cars. We have seen a 24-lap race. Should have asked Bruce before he clocked off the Spa coverage when that was and who it was that did it. But I'm certain we had a 24-lap race earlier on, but we're not going to get the 24 laps for the leaders this time around. So the question is, has Marla Racing got it right? If it's 21, they're going to be... Nah, they can't do it. They've got... And besides which, actually, I've just realised they need to do another driver change. So they have to stop anyway. You've got to change the driver twice. So driver A swaps to driver B, swaps to driver C, is fine. Or driver A swaps to driver B, driver B stays in, driver A gets back in again, is fine too. So as I say, inside the last hour now. Jan Sentowski putting in some good times in the Heusingfeld 101 in 5th position. Where are the battles, I hear you ask? Well, sharp edge of the field at the moment. There's a decent scrap going on for Fuente, Sentowski battling away behind Alexia Loma for Vodafone Team Get Speed. So that's 3rd, 4th and 5th. The 2, the 186 and the 101. I think that's going to be broken up shortly, is it, for pit stops? No, not necessarily. We might see them having a bit of a scrap. Fuente cannot afford for that to get any kind of physicality amongst it. It's been caught just a little bit by Sentowski. Porsche Cup. Bernd Zeibel is got Tobias Roof right up his tailpipes in a battle for 4th and 5th, 285 and 267. It's a decent scrap at the moment. And this Team Nürburgring versus Leipert, still under a second between those two. Now, Nicholas Last has just pitted for Sim Racing Academy Red. I think he's going to try and go at the end from here in the GT4 class. There'll be a few people thinking about the last stops. Kai Kashuba coming round in the lead of the race, has 56 minutes to go and has to get his teammate Niels Koch back in it. Jack Sedgwick doing the middle stint. I think one more lap for him before Sindre Setsas gets back in the car. Alexei Aloma, I think he'll go another couple or 3 laps and put Fabian Schiller in for a 4 or 5 lap dash at the end. He's got a bit of a scrap going on there, though. As I mentioned, La Fuente is closing in and he is dragging Jan Sentowski. So Vodafone, Mahler Racing Team, Williams E Racing Squad and Heusingfeld, 2nd, 3rd and 4th on the front straight together now. And as they cross the line, they all stay out. Heusingfeld, Sentowski. Now they've done their driver changes. So if they can get that car to the end without stopping again now, and Sentowski's only been in it for a lap. Christodoulou did 7. Hufsveld did 7. And if it is only 21, it depends how much time they're going to lose in that last couple of laps when the tyres are starting to go away. Track temps come down by about a degree, but still over 40 degrees Celsius, which is going to put some pressure on the tyres of the big AMG GT3. I'm in a quandary here. Sorry. Stop talking for a moment there because the old cogs were ticking over as to just what we're likely to see. Of the cars at the front of the field, the first car that's done its two driver changes and therefore, in theory, can go to the end if they've got the fuel is the Heusingfeld 101 that was started by Adam Christodoulou, Mats Thorge Hufsveld, and now with Sentowski at the wheel. 3rd of the 3 cars that are battling for 3rd position. Everybody ahead of that must make one more stop for fuel and or to get another driver in. So it is all about just how much fuel is in that Heusingfeld car. Simon Grossman's in the pits from the lead of the Porsche Cup class. Martin Asher 4 seconds behind. He'll go through, or is he gonna? No, he's gone through. Martin Asher's doing it on his own. Not the same rules in the other categories, of course. So Martin, who did have Marcus Yidach listed, but we've seen Martin do the full 3 hours himself in the past. Hello to Monster Jeff. Good to know that you are listening in and watching. We're in a little bit of a holding phase at the moment to wait for some final pit stops, and then the stagger unwinds, as we've talked about that athletics analogy in the past, haven't we? Who's got the tactics right? I questioned earlier on, I've got to say I did, I questioned Team Heusingfeld going the full 7 laps with Adam Christodoulou. Yes, the fuel was there, but it looked like the tyres had taken a pounding in the heat of the first laps of the race and in the heat of the sunlight on the track as well. Shadows are lengthening on the circuit. And then it taken over by Max Stoger, Hutzfeld. 7 laps. Sentowski now behind the wheel. And if the race goes to just 21 laps, then of course they can make it. They can make it. And my computer is wavering between 21 and 22 laps to go. Kai Kashuba has to stop again. So what's the gap then between Kashuba and Sentowski? 1:21. I don't think Sentowski's going to end up in the lead here, even if he can go to the end, but there's a podium on for sure. There's a podium on for Team Heusingfeld. By the time you've done the pit stop, the tyre changed and filled the fuel. Now, Kai can stop pretty much at any time after the end of the next lap and be certain to go at the end. Even if it does go to 22, he'll have to put Niels Koch back in again. But that is the defining factor. He'll want to know that even if it goes that extra lap, they've got the fuel for it. So even if it goes to 22. So next lap or the one after, I would suggest for the leader. So it's fuel and then the time taken for the tyres. And how many get through. Sedgwick has the same issues. Got to get Sindre Setsas back in that car. Got to do the second driver change. Now, Jack, he got in at the end of, I reckon, lap 10. I reckon he'll pit at the end of this one. So I reckon the man filter car in second will pit at the end of this lap. And that'll be a nice run to the end. I suppose he could go one more. I reckon he's probably got the fuel for one more. It depends what he thinks the pace of Sindre Setsas is and how Sindre is feeling. Vodafone Bala, Heusingfeld. Working quite nicely when you think for Sentowski and the Heusingfeld, the third of the 3 cars that are heading onto the Dottinger now, because he's getting a draft. So he's saving a little bit of fuel. So if there is a fuel issue there, he may be able to turn it up on the last lap or so. They all sweep past the TCR Audi. Time that one right as well to make sure you don't ping the Audi as you go through. Yannick Danish is back in the 423. Schneider's been in and out in the Audi. New personal best for Sedgwick in the man filter car as Niels Koch is back in the Team BMW back car, so they have stopped. So Kai Kashuba then, well, a 6 and a 5 for Kashuba. So these cars are coming through. Who peels off? None of them. None of them. And Koch is not rolling yet. Sedgwick one more lap and he's turning it up. Sedgwick one more lap. Got to be one more lap then. So through goes Vodafone in second, Mahler in third, Heusingfeld in fourth. So where does Niels Koch come out? He comes out in 5th position. 5 seconds behind Sentowski, but on new tyres. Now, I don't think Sentowski in the Heusingfeld car will have the tyres at the end to fight. Ooh, bit of a damaged bonnet area on the Get Speed Vodafone cars. They go into the hairpin on the Grand Prix circuit. But he's going to have a decent gap, isn't he? It's about 1:30 to get your pit stop done. He's going to have a decent gap to everybody else. Martin Asher back at the lead of Porsche Cup 2 ahead of Claudius Veed. Those two are back at it again. Manuel Meyer, the H2 Performance in third, and Tobias Ruff of Ireland in fourth. In GT4, Pascal Stix for Core Sim Racing leads by 24 seconds from Niels Carstensen. For Team RSO and Zorg Rennsport has got Sasha Berger back behind the wheel. Then it's Fassbender, the first of the BMWs in GT4 in fourth. In the TCR class, Brautigan leads by 15 seconds for Heusingfeld ahead of Kors, Marius Gollenbeck and Felix Ludingsbach, the qualifier and pole sitting driver who led off for Sim RC TCR. René Kirchhoff for Nürburgring team in fourth position, and those, well, all of those cars down to Leipert as well. Lucas Kauper back behind the wheel of the 453. They're all separated by just a few seconds each. But the interest at the front of the field, where the Manfilter Team HTP Winward, a winning team this year, Jack Sedgwick at the head of the field by 38 seconds. I reckon he picks the end of this lap to hand back for a 5-lap stint, which is exactly what Sindre Setsas did at the start of the race. Actually, I think Sindre might have only done 4, but I think it'll have to be 5 this time around. Eloma in second, but needs to stop La Fuente in the Mahler Audi, the Williams Esports team. Augustin Canapino to get back in that car to take it to the end after starting it from the pit lane. So it's already been a great run for the Mahler Racing Audi. And then the big unknown, there might as well be a huge question mark hovering in the ether above Team Heusingfeld, with Santowski in the dark grey, red and silver car. May just have enough fuel to go to the end. Will he have the pace to fight off the cars who stopped, and who, of course, must get new tyres? The tyres means more time in the pit stop, good news for Santowski, but they will be quicker and have more tyre performance. That's bad news. So which one outweighs the other? Maybe they've played a blinder. 3 7-lap stints. I didn't think it could work. Adam, I apologise, mate. Christodoulou started the race for them, put in a really good stint. Tremendously successful and consistent. Best around the early 8-minute marks, 8:05, 8:06, I think 8:07 maybe, his best lap, and his average was pretty much that as well, to be honest, over his 7 laps. Hello to Get Speed, I know you tuned in. I'm sure you won't tell me on Twitter at RSL_studio, but Alexis comes in this lap, end of this lap or the next one. Alexis got good pace at the moment. He could give Fabian Schiller just a little 4-lap dash to the end, maybe 5 or 4 laps to the end. Meantime, Heusingfeld, Santowski seems to have pressed the go button. Wasn't expecting that. I thought he would just sit in there, knows the cars ahead have got to stop. Does he feel he's being held up, or was there just an opportunity there? But he's dropped back at the base of the hill, heading up to the main carousel. Oh, this is fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. Just checking the other classes to keep our eyes on what's going on at the front of the field. Sedgwick will be coming down towards the end of the lap. Track temperature is falling, and that will help those like the Mahler racing car who are trying to make their tyres last to the end. But it's danger time at the moment as they're having to pass traffic. And just to point out that behind Heusingfeld, Niels Koch for Team BMW Bank has closed in. It was over 5 seconds. It's now down to 3, and he has made his last pit stop. So there's a query on whether 101 will go at the end, but 107 definitely is going to the end. So he has made his last pit stop. Jan Santowski in the Huizingveld 101 may be able to go to the end, but there's a question mark about pace and making that last. There's no worry about fuel on the pole sitting 107 car, now sitting in 5th position. And the top 3 do have to pit. I'm watching the timing screen to see if Sedgwick peels off. Also to see what happens here. This is not good news for Huizingveld. They were getting held up there through Flansgaard, heading down towards the Swallowtail area of the circuit. Down towards Valbentrans. Big Mercedes AMG motor stroking the car onto the Dottinger Höhe. The gap now. Oh, it's gone out a bit. 3.7 to Niels Koch as he catches the traffic. And on the Nürburgring Nordschleife, as in endurance racing as a whole, traffic giveth and traffic taketh away. Sedgwick has come into the pits. So that's his last stop. So where does the man filter car come back out? Watch out for the bright yellow car coming out the pits. Does the Lomas go into the pits for Vodafone, or does he go one more to give his teammate one fewer laps to do at the end? Schiller will get back into that car surely to finish it off. Sedgwick in the pits, and Setsas has got into that car, but it's not rolling. It's not rolling. Crucial now to see what happens to Alexei Lomas. Has gone through. Lomas has gone through. La Fuente has gone through. Santowski's gone through. And Setsas is not out the pits yet. Niels Koch goes through. 4 seconds now, the gap between Santowski and Niels Koch. That's the battle for me for the lead. Santowski and Niels Koch as the effective battle for the lead with, yes, just under 40 minutes to go, but they've got to be going to the end right now. They've got to be going to the end. And it's going to be so tight for Santowski. So, bit of drafting going on further down the field for P8. And Beitske is going to lose out to the Phoenix Racing car. Kevin Volk drags through. So Alexei Aloma at the front of the field, and the Get Speed guys, well, they know what they're doing, but they're not telling. They've gone through onto another lap. La Fuente has gone through onto another lap. Santowski's gone through. We know he's going to the end now. Has to. That's the only choice now. If they run it too far on fuel and they need an 8th lap, I don't think they'll get it. And they'll have to pit for a splash. But of course they have to take new tyres as well if that's the case. That'll drop them out of contention. 3.8 seconds between Santowski and Niels Koch. That's 3rd and 4th at the moment, but it will become 1st and 2nd. Beitske BS competition, BMW, was going so well earlier on. Contact with a TCR in the Hatzenbach while she was 2nd. Lost her 20 seconds or so. Didn't hit the barriers though, extraordinarily. But there was damage to the left rear of the BMW from BS competition. Got to love these races that are not encumbered by flags, slow zones, code 60 areas, etc. Alomas is on his 7th lap now. Aloma then on his 7th lap now. And he did 7 laps last time around. At the end of this lap then, there will be 4 laps to go. Once again, the computer can't make up its mind. Predicting ahead. 22 laps now, which is awful news for Huizinfeld. Awful news. But don't forget, the 2 cars that are leading need to stop, and that might just be enough to knock that back to 21. That would put Santowski in the lead, of course. When they stop, his bigger problem is Nils Koch behind him in the BMW Bank 107 car, because that car will surely have the pace to run him down, and then that becomes the car that will determine if we go on to an extra lap or not. It's all going to depend where the clock runs out. All going to depend where the clock runs out. And with just 3.5, 4 seconds between Santowski and Koch, you can't try and manipulate that. If it's 30 seconds, you can slow down a bit. Great run, by the way, for Marcel Fassbender, who is now leading the GT4 category, not just the BMWs. He's ahead of Matti Sipilä, and he has just put that car and the BMWs in GT4's fastest lap in 8:43.1 as he's gone by Matti Sipilä in the pit lane. So Pascal Stix gave up the car, but Fassbender will lose that position further back down the field because he owes us one more pit stop. I don't think he can go to the end in that BMW. Just check that in the 3.76. Ooh, maybe he can. I think that's a race. I think that might be a race to the end. Fassbender did a 7 and a 7, and he won't have to do a 7 to the end because the leader will lap him again. So Marcel Fassbender in the BMW number 376 from Sim RC. That's the first time I've seen a BMW leading the GT4 class, and he's got 10 seconds on Sipilä, who's just come out of the pits, having just got back into that car, and that is a race for the GT4 win. Porsche versus BMW, or should I say BMW versus Porsche, with Marcus Eichhorn, who is also good to the end of the race, in another BMW in third, and then Patrick Lankow will finish off the race for the RSO Team 397. So just looking through some of the other runners out there at the moment. Santowski under 3 seconds ahead of Koch. That's third and fourth, but the effective battle for the lead. Eloma and Lafuente, a second between them. They'll both pit again before the end of the race. So that's going to be a battle of the virtual pit crew, but unfortunately everything is going to be timed. So Fassbender then leads GT4 for BMW and for SimRC.de. Second place, the first of the Porsches, Sipilä, on his outlap. He's just got back in the car, and he's got now just under 10 seconds to chase down that leader. This would be a famous victory. We've been watching the BMWs. They haven't seemingly, on a one-lap pace, had the pace of the BMWs, of the Porsches, excuse me. Eichhorn then third for Leipert Esports in GT4. So BMW's first and third, Porsche's second and fourth, with Patrick Lankow for Team RSO 397 in the teal blue, dark blue and white centre section of that car. This is a proper race now. Sipilä's got to get a wiggle on. Just done the fastest sector 3 of anybody in the GT4 race. Took a full second out of the car he's chasing. Christian Bug is in fifth, the Zorg Rennsport. That's another Porsche. The BMW gradually being worked on, people getting used to the driving style. Very different front-engine car, of course, versus the mid-engine very low slung engine in the Cayman 718. If you've ever looked at the Cayman or a Boxster, and you open the hatch where you think the engine's going to be, and it's a luggage compartment. So you look underneath at the back and you can't see the engine. Flat 6 sitting very, very low in the middle of the car. Felix Ludwig's on a chase as well at the minute in TCR. He's got a 2.6 gap to make up, 2.6 second gap to make up to Marius Gollenbeck. So it's Core from Sim RC, then a big gap back to Heusingfeld, 40 seconds further back, Marcel Tai. Then Yannick Danich is only 5.6 seconds further back from a podium position. It's going to be some very interesting interviews at the end. Because I need to hear the stories of these races. Need that, hear that. La Fuente leads then. So there's been a pit stop at the front of the field as the Mahler Racing team leads Heusingfeld. So the Get Speed car has come in. Fabian Schiller is into it, and he will run the car at the flag, but he's dropped down to 5th position. So Mahler Racing stayed out for another one. La Fuente pushing his luck here, surely. Well, I only see Canapino handing to La Fuente, so I reckon Canapino's got to get back in that car, unless there's been a change in the regulations. And I have to say I didn't notice that, but it used to be that there was had to be two driver changes. Even then, La Fuente is going to be struggling on fuel. I can't believe he can make it. I reckon he'll have to pit at the end of this lap. That will put Canapino in possibly for 3/4 laps, depending on the pace that he sets. And that then will leave Sentowski in the lead, with Niels Koch in second and Sindre Setsis charging for Manfilter in third. He's got 40 seconds to make up on the leader. And with under half an hour to go now, this is going to be an extraordinary run to the line. It's all about who has the performance at the end of the race and who has the tyres. And I still think that Heusingfeld may have played a blinder here, may have played an absolute blinder. Wherever you are, listening or watching, do not go away. Block out the next 36, 37 minutes, because it could go as long as that. And stay by your computer, your phone, whatever you're watching or listening on, because round 7 of the DNLS by VCO is by no means finished yet.
Legende. Die gefährlichste Rennstrecke der Welt. Der kleinste Fehler wird sofort bestraft. Denn nur wer auf Qualität setzt, kann das Rennen gewinnen.
Spezialfedern. Das Fahrwerk.
Well, hearing some real drama down in TCR, the full send TCR number 485. Pedals on the driver rig failed. Car suffered damage with an impact. Quick repair meant a 5-minute penalty. Not into contention, but they were very, very close indeed, and we're in with a chance. Thanks to Abarth Driver, who tweeted at RSL_studio with that. Really bad look on them, but that was a breakage on the rig, on the pedals on the rig. So the real world side of things causing them problems in the virtual when they had a decent strategy. They'd been there or thereabouts in TCR all race. TCR at the moment led by Marius Golombek for core racing by just a second and a half from Felix Luding. Marcel Tai 40 seconds further back. In GT4 still Fassbender leading by just 3.8 seconds now over the Porsche of Matty Sippler. BMW versus Porsche in the last half an hour in GT4. It's fantastic. We've not had this before in the Cup class for Porsches. Claudius Feed and Martin Asher have been at it all race. In fact, those two cars have been for Sim RC and Asher Racing, but it's nearly 10 seconds between those two at the moment. But at the front of the field is where the intrigue and drama is. Jan Santowski is now only half a second behind Daniel Fuente, who's leading for Marler Racing Team. The Marler Racing Audi started in the pit lane. They didn't get on the grid on time, so started at the back of the first group of cars after they'd all gone through. They're on the Dottinger now. I reckon La Fuente will be peeling off at the end of this lap to let Augustin Canapino finish the race. So the Heusingfeld car doesn't need to go past here and has got 5.3 seconds on Niels Koch for the Team BMW bank. Now, very interesting. Does the Audi peel off? Go to the right-hand side, stay to the right-hand side. No, goes on to another lap. So pushing, really pushing as hard as they can. That's 19 laps completed for La Fuente. They'll complete 20 laps next time around, and that will be the 7th lap of a stint for La Fuente. And he must stop at that point. He can't have enough fuel for 8. And besides which, Canapino's not been back in the car. They've only done one driver change. So, this is then the battle for the lead. So does La Fuente have a go? Does La Fuente crack on? He would have thought the danger was from Koch behind. I suppose it depends, and he'd be being told by his team, you know he will. The gap at the moment to Koch and the BMW, which was on pole, 4.8 seconds at the last split. And I'm getting split by split updates here. The Vodafone, the Manfilter Team HTP, Silver Setsat, possibly on for a podium, depending what happens with La Fuente. 38 seconds off the lead, 32 seconds now off Niels Koch, and doing really good splits. So that's a gap we're going to have to watch as well, with still 21 laps remaining, 21 minutes remaining. But in Nürburgring, that's 3 laps, isn't it? It's all going to come down to when time expires. And in iRacing, when the time expires, that immediately becomes the last lap. So if the leader is on the Dottinger, then they've got 3 or 4 corners, and then they finish the race. The checkered flag will come out. If the leader is on the Grand Prix circuit, they're going to have to do another lap of the Nürburgring Nordschleife. La Fuente then under pressure. all coming, all unraveling, all winding out. The stagger, the tactics, the fuel, the tyres, the concentration, all coming to a head in the last now 19 minutes and 50 seconds. Marvellous stuff. Round 7 of the virtual competition organisation, the VCO NLS. NEMIX 3 hours. What entertainment this has been. Finally, the track temperature drops down below 40 degrees, but it's only down to 39.4. Just reflecting the virtual time of day at the Nürburgring. Race moved back this afternoon because there was so much, I think, real world racing going on. He's decided to move it back away from Formula 1 and WEC and MotoGP and everything else that is going on at the moment. At RSL_studio, what's your thoughts then? Who's got the tactics right? As Michael Besic comes into the pits from Adrenaline from 8th position in GT3. That'll be his last pit stop and the car's last pit stop. Still the battle in GT4, and it's right there now, the battle in GT4 for the lead. Half a second between the BMW that leads and Matti Sippola in second place. So Sippola has caught Fassbender, and with still a couple or 3 laps to go there, that one is yet to be sorted out. Fassbender for Sim RC, Core Sim Racing for Sippola. Marcus Eichhorn for another BMW in third. He's only 25 seconds further back. And then Patrick Lankow, 9 seconds away from a podium. Still watching the lead at the front of the race, of course. I'll keep an eye on those splits. 0.2 of a second now between Fassbender and Sippola in the GT4 category. So that's the 376 and the 303 right at it. We've not seen the BMW this, certainly haven't seen it this competitive. Meanwhile in TCR, things are hotting up as well, as Gollenbach is being caught by Felix Luding. As I suggested, Luding might be on attack mode, and he's right up the tailpipes now of Gollenbach. And the lead has changed in GT4. Sippola's gone through on Eichhorn. Is there going to be a change as well in another class? We're inside the last 18 minutes, and we've just had a change for the lead in one class. We might see a change for a lead in the other, and at the overall head of the race, it's still only a second between first and second. Edge of the seat stuff, breathless. TCR battle. Just over the bridge now, down at Adana. Beginning to head back uphill. Meantime, the lead of the race. Battling through traffic here, and this could be danger time for any of them. Ober Wippermann, and diving through the sweeping sections of the circuit. It's a one-line track here. Got to be so careful going past even a TCR car. Brilliant stuff by all the drivers. Actually, that was coming on to Flansgarden, excuse me, for the leaders. They'll be catching the TCR battle fairly shortly as well. They're just on the Dottinger Höhe now. So change in GT4. Oh, it's gone back again. Fassbender's got back in front. So Fassbender's got back ahead of Sippola. What a cracking battle that is. In GT4, you need eyes everywhere on this huge circuit. Huizinfeld in second. Surely this time Lafuente will come in. Lafuente now coming to complete lap number 20. He got in the car the end of lap 13. So this will be a 7-lap stint. He has done a 7-lap stint in this car, but I can't believe he's going to try and stretch it further. And Canapino has not been back in the car for his second stint. End of the lap, we'll find out in about 40 seconds, less than that. Does the Marlow racing car, which started in the pit lane, I know I've said it before, but I find that extraordinary that it's in with a chance. Yes, it does, Pit. And through goes Heusingfeld. So Heusingfeld now goes through to complete 20 laps. And starts, well, 1 lap or 2 laps. At the end of this one, it's going to be tight. There's 14 minutes to go. Heusingfeld might have just, unfortunately, mistimed it. There's going to be another lap, isn't there, after this one? It's been hovering between 21 and 22. But with 14 laps to go, and 14 minutes to go, excuse me, there will be one more at the end of this one. So it swings back to BMW, I reckon. And the car now in second place. Niels Koch maybe not pushing anymore. Sindre Setsas, he's not making any inroads. 20 seconds back from Setsas. There goes Augustin Canapino out of the pits. Now Canapino, new tyres and a run to the end. It's got to be maximum attack for the Argentinian. They've got to push to make sure that it goes that extra lap. Meantime, Koch and Sim RC are battling for the lead. And here comes the Schnitzerheim car to go by them. Was that the man filter car actually might have been going past them? Yeah, I think it was. That was Setsas going by them. Right onto the rev limiter by the leader. In TCR on the Dottinger Core Racing. Sippela's back in the lead in GT4. The lead's changed 4 times on that lap in GT4. Sippela now with a mighty half a second lead on Fassbender, but this is going to be by far the best result by a BMW in GT4, certainly that I see. Starting to be corrected on that. Hello to Monster Jeff on Twitter. Loves the more aggressive strategies like Nick Tandy uses in real life. Doesn't always work out, of course. It was my team, he says, I would tend to be more conservative. Fassbender then at the bottom of the hill, leading up to the Cracciola Carousel, and he's got Sippela right in front of him as they drop onto the concrete and rattle their fillings through the long left-hander. Oh, and Fassbender's on the grass for a moment and loses a bit of time. Dropped a couple of seconds there. Wonder if he's starting to lose the tyres on that BMW. Just got on the power a tiny bit early, popped out like a cork. Oh, he's hit the barrier. He actually hit the barrier. On the right-hand side, we've all done it. We've all done it. Now, has he knocked the toe out? Just got on the throttle. He was a bit greedy. What, half a second too early? Oh, can't believe that. He's driven such a good race. Marcel Fassbender may have just thrown away any chance of a BMW victory in GT4 in that moment. Thank goodness we saw it. There's damage to the right front wheel arch, and if we can see it, he'll certainly be able to feel it. Sometimes we can't see it and you still feel it. Yeah, his pace has gone off. Oh, goodness me, the drama. The drama at the end of this race. He's dropped 4 seconds. He's in real strife now. He should hold on to second. He's got 31 seconds back to Patrick Lankow in the RSO 397, who will be getting the hurry up. He's got 5 seconds on Christian Bug, who's got ahead of Sandro Petroziello in the next BMW. So it's Porsche's at the moment 3rd and 4th. Are Porsche going to wrest back the podium? 10 minutes to go. It's the podium in GT4 there. Oh, Marcel! He's going to be so annoyed with himself at the end of this. So at the front of the field, Adam Christodoulou led off, having qualified the 101. Then Mats Thorger Hutzfeldt took over. 7 laps for Adam, 7 laps for Mats. This will complete the 7th lap for Jan Sentowski. At the front of the field, have they got one more lap of fuel? We've seen 8 laps before, but not for a wee while. It's going to be mighty. He's got 5 seconds on Niels Koch in 2nd place. Niels got plenty of fuel in that car. La Fuente, having just stopped, he's fine. Sindre Setsas, he'll be on full attack. So will Fabian Schiller. But they're all quite a long way back. Schiller's got 1 minute and 21. A minute for Augustin Canapino, who's in the Marler Racing car, sorry. Then Setsas, 41 seconds. He's not gaining on the 2 ahead of him. And meantime, the battle in TCR continues for Golombek and Luding. They've got 38 seconds on Marcel Thai for Husingveld 404 team in 3rd. Down through Callan-Hard for the battling TCR leaders, and they've got another TCR car to put a lap on in a little while. Canapino is lighting up my timing screen. Green, 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 purple. Green, green, purple. Green. So Canapino knows there's something on here. He's under 1 minute away from the leader, 17 seconds away from Setsas at what would be another podium position for the Marler Racing team in this one. They've had a couple of really good results this year when they've had problems. Remember, they got slammed into the wall early doors, and that was an early pit stop for them in one of the first races of the season. This time they've had to start from pit lane and drive the wheels off that Audi. On the long Dottinger, as opposed to the short Dottinger, which doesn't exist. On the Dottinger, Sentowski then, and this is the race right here. Does he peel off to the right, in which case he is going to drop out of the top 6, I reckon, certainly out of the top 5, or do they risk it and go for one more lap? He's going to stay right, isn't he? He's pitting. He's not pitting. Excellent. Excellent. And look at the time. 6:50. 6:50. That means this will be the last lap, because time will run out on this lap. This is marvellous. This is marvellous. I've got goosebumps here. The dice has been rolled in round 7 of the DNLS by VCO, the NEMIX 3 hours, and Heusinkveld have rolled the dice. Now, Niels Koch now with 7 seconds in arrears. Were they expecting it? I don't know. But he surely has got to push. Setsas, 36 seconds further back. Canapino now has got one more lap to make up 18 seconds to get on to the podium. Well, they must have looked at the readout. They must know what the fuel numbers are. These are now very old tyres indeed. 7 laps completed for Sentowski. Oh my goodness. The track temperature has come down, which I did say would help them at the end, but my goodness, they've rolled the dice. Love it. I thought they were out of it. I thought they'd gone maybe even 2 laps too long. We had cars stopping after 5 laps at the start of the race. Things were so hot, the pace was so hot, the track was so hot. But they've stuck to their plan A. Adam Christodoulou qualified and took it about 57 minutes for 7 laps. Handed it off to Mats Thorge Hutzfeld. They've stayed out of trouble. There's not a mark on that Heusingfeld car. It has the detritus of racing on it, yes, but not a dent, not a bang, not a push. They've stayed out of it. They sat behind people in the draft. Meantime, the battle for TCR continues, and they'll go on to another lap. So Marius Gollenbeck and Felix Luding, they'll be hammering along for another lap. Who's got tyres left here? Well, these two. There shouldn't be any worries about fuel on the TCRs. And I have a suspicion these two stopped around about the same time in the 433 and the 476. The 403, excuse me. Yeah, they did. They stopped in exactly the same lap. And so they should be fine. 2 very short stints before they jumped in. So 6 laps for the pair of them at the start of the race, then 6 laps for the second driver. Patrick Kabinci and Jürgen Frank were having a cracking battle. Then they did a lap extra and then handed over to these two. And they are about to head on to their last lap. In Cup, 4.8 seconds, and Martin Ascher has just put the fastest lap of the race in second place in the Cup class. So Claudius Veed cannot relax at all. And where are they on the track? So Veed's done 5 laps. Ascher has just come out of the pits a couple of laps ago, so he should have a tyre advantage. Here's Sentowski. His gap is 7 seconds. He's driving away from the pole-sitting car. Accelerating through the gears as he comes up the hill from Bergwerk. Climbing all the while now. What strategy. Really, really impressive. Going wide there. Those tyres must be struggling just a little bit as he was coming through. Klostertal heads to the bottom of the carousel. Probably just over a third of the lap to go. But still plenty of places that can catch him out. Got to keep the concentration. The gap to second, Niels Koch and Team BMW Bank. The car that was fastest in qualifying with Koch at the wheel, remember. 7 seconds. Oh. Absolutely magnificent battles right throughout the field. In Porsche Cup, under 6 seconds now between Claudius Veed and Martin Ascher. Looks like Tobias Ruff will nail third for Violent Racing. In GT4, Sippler, after the mistake by Marcel Fassbender, has now got 12 seconds. Patrick Lankow still 20 seconds further back, but Christian Bug is catching Lankow for third on the podium and is just 2 seconds now behind the Team RSO for Zorg Rennsport. And in TCR, crank it up. Still going at it. Coming up to the top of the hill at Arenberg and now into the Vauxhall under the Yokohama crossover bridge. So they're barely a third of the way into the lap at the moment. Sentowski's just put his fastest Sector 2 and Sector 3 of the race and the fastest Sector 4 of the race in on this last lap. Sentowski's pushing. He doesn't need to. He's got 7.5 seconds. He's coming through now to what's going to be a famous victory. Sentowski is finishing it off in style. But remember, there's racing behind, and he's got traffic ahead of him. Goes past Fassbender, who's struggling. That's not the worst thing that can happen for Fassbender, because the checkered flag will come out when the car in front of him now crosses the line. It means he won't get back on terms with Sippler, but it means he won't get caught by Langkow either on the last lap. Dottinger Hall for the final time, past the tourist fire and kiosk on the right-hand side. Sentowski putting a full stop and an exclamation point on the good work that was done by his teammates earlier on. Mats Thorger Hutzfeld in the middle stint and Adam Christodoulou. The checkered flag is out. Time has elapsed and Team Huizingveld 101 win round 7, NEMIX 3 hours for the 2020 VCO Nürburgring Langstrecke Series. What a race, what a victory, what strategy, what speed. Ahead of the BMW in second that was on pole position. Niels Kost anchors that lot home. Kai Kashuba doing the middle two stints, just a two driver. Sindre Setsash will be across the line for another podium finish for Man Filter HTP Winward Racing. 2 AMGs and a BMW, and Marla Racing, Agustin Canapino is going to be about 16 seconds away from getting another podium, but it'll be fourth from the pit lane for the Marla Racing team. Williams E-Racing squad. Daniel Lafuente did his 14 laps in the middle of the race. Now, how about Sim Cup 2? Still some racing to go on there. Claudius Veed. Simon Gross in the middle of the race. Been battling against Martin Asher right the way through this race. Veed 5.4 seconds to the good on Martin Asher. TCR at the carousel for the final time. GT4 Sippler for Core Racing, the 303. He's on his way home now as well to take a victory, and the top step of that podium look much more difficult than I think he expected. Marcel Fassbender has finished. The checkered flag has been out, so he will get second place for BMW and Sim RC.de. Pascal Stix doing a great job with Matti Sippler to take the win for Core in GT4, but they were pushed by the BMW this time, and that's the first time I've said that. But still can't pick a winner from the TCR class. We'll get you some interviews in a moment, but obviously you want to have all of the winners across the line in all of the classes and give them their due deserts, and there's still a first place to be decided here with Maris Golombek for Core Sim Racing. Nowhere near safe at the moment. Patrick Kabinji did his bit in the middle. Felix Luding qualified and started the yellow and black car in second, and it was Jürgen Frank in the middle. Coming down towards Flansgarten for the final time for those TCRs. Now, remember, we have seen the perfect draft from that car in second at the moment. When he lost the lead with a Porsche Cup car going through at the small carousel, he dropped back just enough to get the run through the final corner onto the Dottinger and then down the main straight. He timed it perfectly. Now, what I can't remember was which one of the drivers it was. Was it Felix who was in the car at the time. I think it might have been Jürgen. Oh, he might be a bit close at the moment, but he's having a go. This is for the lead. Onto the Dottinger Hohe. Has he gone too early? It's compromised both their exits. Now, the problem with the TCR cars is you run out of revs if you try and go too early. Put the side-by-side. And for a moment, the black and yellow car's in the lead. But has he gone too early? The core racing car's got to drop straight back in. Weaving around, trying to break the toe. This is for the win. We've seen battles like this end in the barriers at the end of the lap. Here comes the core racing car back to the lead. The lead's changed twice on the Dottinger Hohe already, and it's not over. Bit of side drafting there under the Bilstein crossover bridge. They're going to tough it out. It's going to be side by side through the final corners. Who's the bravest? There's a touch. It was inevitable. There's going to be another touch to the right-hander. Almost a slide. Hard on the throttle from the core racing car and into the barriers. Oh my goodness me. What a run to the line. What a final lap. But it is going to be then Felix Luding for Sim RC, controversially with contact into the final set of corners. Takes it just ahead of Marius Gollenbeck. Tiny, tiny margins. Gollenbeck got his foot down early to try and straighten the car up and get the run out. Patrick Kabinji did his bit in the middle. But the win will go to Felix Luding, who started and qualified the car. Jürgen Frank in the middle. What a finish. Claudius V confirmed. So that's another Asher Racing sponsored car and a Sim RC machine that'll go through and take a win for Claudius V and Simon Grossman. Just ahead of Asher himself, who was in the background coming through there. And it'll be another core on the podium. Matti Sippola, after a really interesting battle, he and Pascal Stix pushed all the way by the solo drive of Marcel Fassbender in the Sim RC, another Sim RC car. The best result for the BMW M4 GT4 that we've seen in this championship. Well, 3 hours we said, we are already well over that, 10 minutes over that. And plenty of action right throughout. Once again, VCO, the Digital Nürburgring Langstrecken Series, has delivered drama, action and fabulous racing all the way through. That had everything. Absolutely everything. Well done to all of the competitors, as Sippola just has the final complex of corners before we can confirm that victory. And coming to the line, through the kink under the Bilstein Bridge, and I get my breath back for a moment after an extraordinary last, well, I was going to say last 30 minutes, but really that's just been building and building and building like a pressure cooker for the whole 3 hours, and finally something had to blow, and it was in the TCR class. There goes Matti Sippola, confirmed then as the winner in the GT4 category. Pushed right to the end. Well done to Claudius V for Sim RC. In Porsche Cup, Matti Sippola for Core, who wins in the GT4 category, along with his teammate Pascal Stix. Right, let's see if we can pull in an interview or two. Adam Christodoulou is with us. So first of all, hello Adam, it's Hindhoff here. Mate, I'm sorry I doubted you. Can you hear me, Adam?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me all right?
Smashing. Adam, I'm sorry I doubted you at the start there. I thought 7 laps early on in that heat with the tyres and the performance drop-off, I thought that couldn't possibly be the right thing to do. Good qualifying, fantastic race, mate. Well done. Was that always going to be the plan?
Well, we're a bit unsure. We were just, I was just trying to keep up with the car in front. Like, my qualifying didn't quite go to plan. And in the end, the start of the race went pretty well. I think for some reason, P3 didn't start next to us. So I basically got straight into third place. I thought about going for second, but in the end, obviously the guys were faster than me because they had qualified me. So I just thought, well, if I can stick with them for the first few laps, get them to drag me along, and let's just see where we are. But in the end, Yen and Matt just put in blistering times, and we were just fuel saving, and we were calculating it. I've got each lap on my phone of how much fuel we needed to save on each lap just to get us to the end. And then the next question was, are we even going to make it to the end of the race? So it was it was definitely touch and go all the way through.
It looked like you had a good car, Adam, if I'm honest. There was a couple of times when I thought you had a run on the Dottiger, both you and Matchthogger Hutzfeld as well, who was in the car second. And it looked like you almost elected not to take the pass. Again, was that part of the fuel-saving strategy?
Well, during the first few laps, no, it wasn't, because basically we believe you can only do the longer strategy in the second or third stint, because you've also got to do the warm-up from where we grid to the start. So, of course, you end up using another litre of fuel there. And it was just one of those that we just tried to do it as efficient as we can. And, of course, we also knew that each time you do a pit stop, you've got to come in and do a full set of tyres, which takes 27 seconds. So, in the end, it was all down to the fuel saving that Jan did right at the end. And the second place BMW got within 3 seconds, and then they just seemed to get hammered by traffic 3 laps in a row, and that just opened it up. And it was really surprising, but there's some serious fuel saving going on there. Like even during my stint, I just thought, right, I'd just stay behind, because I wasn't sure if I was quick enough to get ahead and to pull a gap. So I just thought, well, maybe he's dragging me along, and in the end, I think we got it by just a few seconds. I think we got it by maybe 4 or 5 seconds, which was pretty close.
Yeah, 6.5 at the line, Adam. Yeah,
it was too close.
When you realised,
I was nervous, I could feel the nerves getting to me.
When it went to 22 laps, when you realised it was going to 22, my predictor was hovering between 21 and 22. And when it went to 22, I mean, when did you realise that Jan was going to have to do a phenomenal piece of fuel saving? And how close was it at the end on that 8th lap?
Well, basically, we crossed the line with 1.1 litres left. And so, and with this, basically, once you get to 0.3, it basically stops. So I think basically you turn the ignition off, going across the line, just to make sure that we could get back to the pits, because that's the other thing. You need to make it back to the pits. So that's why the in-lap was quite painfully slow, but I suppose it also gave us time to enjoy it as well.
Brilliant stuff, mate. You've really been enjoying this online sim racing, particularly I know with VCO series. When do we see you in a full metal car again?
So I am back at the Nürburgring next in 2 weeks' time. So basically, a week on Friday, I'll be there for the next NLS race, back with the HRT boys, and so hopefully we can have a repeat of our last race. The last race was a double header, and we managed to win both races somehow in the end. And so hopefully we can do that and get prepped for the Nürburgring 24 hours in a few weeks' time.
Give those boys in the Mo4 Racing League, including Bradley and Nick and all of our lot, give them a bit of hell for us the next time you're racing in their league as well. Well done, Adam. Thanks to you. Thanks to the boys. Give them all of our best, won't you?
Cheers.
Adam Christodoulou then from the winning number 8 car. Absolutely outstanding from him. To confirm the results then, at the front of the field, Heusingfeld from Team BMW Bank, from Manfield to Team HTP. That was the 101, the 107 and the 48. 6.5 seconds and 44 seconds back from the leader. Agustin Canapino did a great job at the end, along with his teammate Daniel Lafuente in the middle. They started from the pit lane in 4th. Claudius Veed brought home the SimRC Cup Porsche, the 276 for the win in the Cup 2 category, ahead of Martin Asher, driving on his own again for Asher Racing. Tobias Ruff anchored home Violent Racing, the 276 on the podium. In GT4, what a battle we had in GT4. The BMW led the race for Marcel Fassbender, who was driving on his own. And even when he got past, he had a go. He got back in the lead again. He was racing Matty Sippler for Core Sim Racing in the Porsche at the end. And a tiny mistake on the penultimate lap, hitting the outside, the right-hand side barrier, popped out of the Caracciola carousel a little bit early, a little bit free with the right-hand pedal. And got on that a bit earlier than he wanted to. But he finishes second, just 14 seconds off the lead, even with that damaged car, ahead of Team RSO in 3rd position. That, I think, confirmed, is somebody can tell me, is the best result by the new BMW M4 GT4 since it was introduced. As ever, the TCR class was bonkers. Sim RC TCR getting another win, 2 class wins for them then in this one, with the 476 coming home just ahead of Marius Gollenbeck in the Core Sim Racing team of 403, and Team Heusingfeld, another good result for them with the 404 car as well. So that's how it finished. Let's see if we've got any more people waiting in our waiting room. I don't think we do at the moment. So let's say a quick thank you to all of our colleagues at the Nürburgring for putting in all of our great work, all of their great work to get the pictures to us. Michael and the rest of the team, thank you very much indeed. And Tim Gray was up in London. The responsible adult was everywhere. We'll have our VCO Victory Lane interviews on Wednesday night within Midweek Motorsport. That starts at 8 o'clock UK time. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your motorsport weekend. What a round 7. The NEMIX 3 hours of the Nürburgring for the Nürburgring Langstrecken Series, powered by VCO. Thanks for joining us on RS1, RS3, and around the world in sound and vision. I'm John Hindorf. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.